Hi, this is a Disco Inferno. I'm a former WCW TV champion. I'm a former WCW Cruiserweight champion. I was also a former booker on the WCW writing team. And I'm about to do an interview for Hannibal TV. I'm going to do a little dance, make a little love, and get down tonight. Boom.
What was your childhood like?
I was only child, so I grew up played all the sports except for I wasn't playing baseball. I played soccer, basketball, and football growing up. I was a good soccer player. That was my sport of choice. I was one of the better soccer players in the state of Georgia. I grew up in Atlanta. I was born in Brooklyn, but I moved there when I was 3 years old. So I grew up in suburban Atlanta, Georgia, Marietta, and played soccer. I was a good soccer player. We were actually a traveling team that represented the state of Georgia that went to England. That was when I was 12 years old. So I peaked athletically when I was 12. When I got into high school, I started going to a private school, and the drive was like a 40-minute drive back and forth to school. So I just practice and stuff, and sports was kind of different than when you're doing that as opposed to when you're playing in your neighborhood and stuff and all that. So athletically, in high school I just played soccer, and 1 year of football I played soccer, and I just kind of got disinterested in the organized sports. So I played a lot of pickup, a lot of intramural stuff and everything. But and I was always interested in pro wrestling. That was my favorite show to watch on TV. I was a good kid and the perfect attendance in school. Maybe I missed 3 days. My entire school history. I've never been gotten sick.
Oh.
I've always been you can count on probably 5 fingers the amount of days I've been sick in the past 30 years. I'm not sick to me is you can't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And so I just was always healthy. Parents were three Scorpios, 3 Italians living under one roof. So we kind of argued with each other a lot, typical Italian family. Ended up going to college. Failed out of Georgia Tech twice. So I wasn't a good student. I'd like to go play sport, play pickup and stuff and everything, and just go out all the time. Then I went to over a year of vocational schools, and then I went to the University of Georgia for 3.5 years. And when I finished there, the week I graduated, I tried out for wrestling. Okay, so I went to 6.5 years of college.
Yeah.
The week I tried out for wrestling, did the tryout and never looked back.
Oh, okay.
My entire college, if I would have known I was going to be a professional wrestler,
yeah.
I would not have done 6.5 years of college. It was a 6.5 year window of my life that was just been a complete waste of time. So
before you get into your wrestling tryout, what wrestling were you exposed to in Atlanta?
Everything. So Atlanta was here's the best part. If you grew up in Atlanta, and during when I did, and you were a professional wrestling fan, it was very difficult to not know a lot about the business, because we had in 1979 cable TV started. So I was getting obviously the Superstation on WTBS in Atlanta, 6 o'clock on Saturday nights. So then we got cable, and when cable started, I was getting WR in New York and USA Network, and WR back then would show, of course, the weekly WWE or WWF wrestling back then, but they would also show USA Network once a month would show Wrestling from the Garden, Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
So I was watching all that, and then in Atlanta on channel 36, it was kind of like a substation. It wasn't like one of the major networks, but on channel 36, this guy named Joe Pedicino had a show. It was Saturday Night Wrestling. He had from 8 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning, an hour from 7 different parts of the country. Okay,
wow.
So I was exposed to, and I watched everything. I taped it on my VCR recorder if I wasn't home and stuff and everything. So I 7 plus 2, 9, 10 to 13 hours a week of wrestling that I would watch for 6, 7, 8 years in a row. Just I just got educated to the wrestling. Seen a lot of from different they had AWA wrestling from Mid-South Wrestling, Bill Watts's. Sometimes they had Florida wrestling. They'd wrestle in the Northeast. Sometimes they show Puerto Rico. The 7 hours of local wrestling stuff. But the thing I always I was interested in was the storylines, characters. So you're watching 10 to 13 hours of wrestling each week, and I had most of it on the VCR. I would, watch all the interviews and kind of like, fast forward through the matches, get to the finish, see what's going on. So, to speed it up. Like I wasn't watching, 13 full hours unless it was a good match. I want to see the whole match. But I was just mainly interested in the storylines, interviews, and who was winning, But that kind of like shaped me kind of like as like kind of a student of wrestling, because it's very difficult not to be a student when you're watching that much wrestling. It's like wrestling today. People watch it, they become student, they learn about it, so.
Yeah. Is there any favorites that you had in particular?
Yes. My favorite show used to be Mid-South Wrestling, with the Bill Watts stuff, with because I thought at the time I thought Jim Ross was like the best announcer. Like he was like all fired up, and but I liked growing up. I was a big Dusty Rhodes fan, big Four Horsemen fan, big Macho Man, Hogan, Piper and Honky Tonk. Those were kind of like my favorites growing up. And me and my friends, we used to go to the Omni in Atlanta and watch wrestling. We were kind of like those, kind of back then smart marky type guys. We knew wrestling was a work, but we didn't know how they did it like everybody does today. But we used to wear wear blazers and stuff and everything. And we cheer the Horsemen. There's always there's always a contingent of Four Horsemen fans in the crowd at the Omni. Like maybe 15 to 20% of the crowd was always woo. They do and they'd always do the fingers. They were heel fans, and that was like that's what I grew up on. Just I got to see Mr. Wrestling #2, the Assassins, Buzz Sawyer and Tommy Rich. Their wars they had. The Omni was back then. The Omni was like one of the hottest buildings for wrestling. It was just seemed like it was so different. Like then there was always fights in the crowd.
Oh, really?
I mean, always fights in the crowd. 5-6 fights a night. There's just there's a lot of there was good emotion in the arena. Back then, everybody thought wrestling. The suspension of disbelief was still in the right place. A lot of people thought it was real. Back then, and there was always a lot of fights. We almost got in fights because we were fans of the Horsemen. Fans spit on us sometimes. We cheered the Horsemen and stuff. But that's what I grew up with, and those were my favorites. Piper and Piper's Pit were probably like my favorite things growing up to watch.
Okay, so you preferred the heel side.
I prefer the guys that could cut good promos.
Okay.
I thought Piper was just like the guys that could talk. And I was like, I kind of gravitated toward, but I like Dusty. Who didn't like Dusty? It was hard to be a heel fan and not like Dusty Rhodes because he was so charismatic. His interviews were so good.
So you always wanted to be a wrestler, obviously, and then
not really. No, I just always was a fan of wrestling.
Okay.
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I had a friend of mine. My soccer coach growing up was a travel agent, and this guy was my soccer coach for like 10 years. And are still friends of our family to this day. Like if I'm ever in town, we always go to their house for just a holiday dinner and stuff. But he was a travel agent, and he was booking the travel for the NWA when he was working with Ole Anderson and stuff back at that time. And when I'd finished college, he asked me, he just said, this had never been discussed before. He said, "Do you want to try out to wrestle?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess so. I'll try." I was in decent shape because I'd started working out when I was 21 years old, but I was always an athlete. I played sports, played street hockey, played basketball, played everything. But my body was like, all right, I was like probably 200 pounds, and I tried out. He got me a tryout, and I passed the tryout and never looked back.
Did he ever have any issues with Ole Anderson booking travel, or was Ole pretty normal to him? Ole was always cool to him because he had a deal with he had gotten with Ole and had a deal with Ole. This is back when Sky Miles were kind of like a new thing. Yeah.
And they would book the travel, and Ole would get all the Sky Miles for the guys. So he loved my coach because they had I don't want to use the word to say it's a scam, but they had a kind of a racket set up where Ole was getting all the Sky Miles.
Right.
Booking all the travels because he was he was the booker. So he loved my he never had they never had any issues. They were always cool with each other.
So what was your actual training like?
Me and my friends used to of course we were wrestling fans, so we used to play wrestle in the yard and stuff, not in the yard, to get the kids' house. So I always I could throw a good working punch already,
I got lucky. The Bill Eadie was the guy that was running the school, but he never trained me. There was a guy named Steve the Brawler Lawler, a really good indie worker, and stuff. If he'd probably like pursued it more and everything. He could have easily worked on TV and worked against anybody. He's a good worker, but I got lucky. I picked it up really, really, really fast, and the luckiest thing I did is I hit the ropes. The first time I hit the ropes, I hit the ropes right the first time I tried it, and so the ropes and the bumps I was just for some reason, when you try them the first time, I was like, oh, hey, you're doing it right. I was doing those right, and I trained twice a week for 5 weeks, and that I gave them the money, and I don't know whether they thought I was ready or not, or whether they were just like, they got my money and they were like, okay, we're done with you, but like they said, okay, you're ready. After they got all the money, but like I was super green, but back then, there were no territories. This was around 92. There were no territories, but this was a lot of indie work. But I remember like my first match, I worked and gave me an envelope. And I opened up and said they got an envelope. It's like there was no money in it, So yeah, that was my first match in Zane. I got an envelope. My envelope was an envelope. That's what I made. So I tell people this day, like, hey, what'd you get? Well, what was in your envelope? They're like, oh, $40. I go, you're lucky. I just got the envelope, So, but back then I was making $20 to $40 doing indies, but I was green. You go back and look. The funniest thing is when you're watching yourself, like somebody records you, you watch, and you think you're pretty good. Then you wrestle another year or two, and you go back and look back at the other 2 years. It's like, oh my god, I thought I was good back then. It's like but I just started doing the indies and improving as I worked better workers. When you're working other indie workers, you really don't know what you're doing. A lot of times too, but back then there was still the deal where we had to call it in the ring sometimes.
Right.
There was a lot of indie shows I would go to. We'd heel and baby dressing room. You wouldn't talk. The referee just come and give you the finish, and you go meet out there and stuff. But so I kind of learning that way was a lot. You pick it up a lot faster. Learning how to work and call things in the ring. It wasn't like when I got to WCW and like we sit in the back and basically lay out the match because you have time and stuff. But like I was like kind of the last breed of wrestlers, I guess, maybe the early '90s that I tell people to this day is like when I until I started training to wrestle, I'd never seen an Observer or a Pro Wrestling Torch until like a couple of the guys that were training with would bring them, and I'd read it like I'm reading like the inside stuff and like I didn't know how they did it. There was no, unless you had the Pro Wrestling Torch or the Observer, you didn't know the inside stuff of wrestling. Just watching on TV, and like that's the early '90s. So it's like that's kind of like the last era of when we before like the internet started and people like started then the Monday Night War started and everybody kind of like became interested. But like I learned to work in the ring and call. So that's the first thing we did was like when we're training, they're not just telling us we're training, call the moves, stuff and everything. So that's how I learned.
Did Bill Eadie end up giving you any advice? Because I guess he was fresh.
Yeah, well, he didn't. Yeah, but most of my advice came with Bill traveling with him on indie shows and knowledge in the car. So if he was I love traveling with him because he was a great storyteller. He had great stories too. Because he had a really interesting past. It's kind of like a muscle for some guys. Like a debt collector type. So he was. He always was telling me like all these stories. Growing up, and he would like just psychology, pro wrestling psychology and stuff, and just a lot of people really don't know exactly what that means. Like what is psychology? Everybody use that word psychology. Stuff. But until you when you don't know what it is. Until you have somebody like explain stuff to you in wrestling, like that's what it is. It's like if you have bad psychology, so you really don't know a lot of how to work. You talk to guys that have worked for years, and they just kind of tell you how to work. That's like psychology to me, And I just learned a lot from him. And I used to drive around a lot with Jake Roberts. I had to pick him up, and we always had to go on these wild rides, with him. It's like Jake is like you never know where.
Those were his dark days.
Oh yeah. He's just a mess. But like in between of him being a mess on these trips, I'd have to go with him and stuff. And he'd, just give me great knowledge, how to work a character, how to do, just what to do, and go try this. I go and try it, and stuff. But he was always like, I mean, he'll even tell you these stories. He was a crackhead.
Right.
You know, we'd be driving. Hey, pull over this town over here. You know, we'd go down the highway. With like 4-hour drive, you just pull into town and go try and find the hood in the town and pull up the street corners, ask people if they got any crack. I'm a green guy in the business, right? You know, I'd known him from seeing him on TV and stuff. You know, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, I'm going to private school. You know, in high school, so I'm like a suburban kid from Marietta, Georgia, and stuff. And I'm driving around with Jake, and he's trying to, he's like, he was a crackhead back then. You know, he just couldn't. And I would have to go and drive him and stuff. You know, I didn't do it. You know, I have to drive. So it's like, I'm the driver. I'm the green guy driving around Jake, and he's, But in between all that, the guy's brilliant, for wrestling. But it's just he was just a mess,
Right.
But
you do it right in the car.
Yeah, it's funny. He would we'd get in the car and I'd get in the driver's seat, and he'd get in the passenger seat. His car. We drive his car. He didn't want to drive because he wanted and he would always just reach in, pull the can out and be like, I haven't done this since the last time I drove with you. Every time, and I'm like, oh, yeah, all right, yeah, sure, Jake. I'm sure that's true. Right? So, oh, really? So he'd he'd do that. And then so I was doing that with him. Plus, I had to drive with the Sheik a lot.
The Iron
Sheik.
Okay.
Iron Sheik. I had to drive with him. Those were always wild rides. Because he liked to smoke pot and drink.
Right.
He's driving the car, and he was hysterical too, because he would he'd always wear his gear. Just like he'd wear the boots with the toes sticking up. I'd pick him up in the car and say, what he'd be wearing.
Yeah.
And I'd go to he had a nice house in the suburbs in South Atlanta. His wife was like a banker. 3 good looking daughters, and he had I'd always have to go pick him up at his house, and he had like a gym in his backyard. But it was funny because the gym would be in the backyard, but he didn't cover the weights or nothing. So all the equipment was all rusty. Because it get rained on and just so it's but he'd be out there working out, and I'd come pick him up. Hey, ready to go? She's sure. He'd be doing bench press and stuff, and we would always have to we'd always have to go. The first thing we do, we have to go to the liquor store, and he would buy a how would I put this? Like the largest amount of liquor, whatever it was, that you could buy for the cheapest price. Per fluid ounce, you would get these bottles like Mad Dog, which is like the worst liquor you could drink. These big bottles of it, and he would just drink and smoke pot, on the drive, and I didn't do that. I'm driving the green guy driving around, but it was funny. We'd always drive Atlanta to Birmingham, and what was this place called? Metter, Alabama, or something like that. It's a town, Moultrie, Alabama. Okay, and Moultrie, Alabama was you drive due west out of Atlanta, and then straight north to Moultrie into Birmingham. You go to Birmingham, right? So back then, we would do the drive. I was driving him. I 6-7 times I drove with him. Same drive. But in between, when you go from Birmingham north towards Moultrie, there would be dry counties in Alabama where they don't serve alcohol, right? So it would be funny. You'd be driving, and there'd be you'd hit the dry county, but you're driving on the highway, and there'd be billboards kind of like Vegas lit up, beer 5 miles, hey, they're letting you know now alcohol's in the next exit stuff. So when I used to go, with the Sheik after the show, it was a routine, right? We'd leave the show, and the show was in a dry county. So when we leave the show, we want to go get beer for the trip home, and we have to drive 6-7 miles down the highway to the next county to get the first exit, get the beer, right? So we'd always every time we get in the car, first 2 or 3 trips. Hey, maybe we get beer after the show, stuff. Maybe we go get some beer. Sure, Sheik, yeah, we'll get beer. And I'd do it, see the sign, 5 miles, 2 miles, next exit, pull off and get the beer, right? So it was funny, but there'd be 3 or 4 exits in that county, and it'd be beer off every exit. So I started doing it, he'd do the same thing. Hey, maybe we get beer after the show. It was a routine, right? Yeah. So I started going. So now, next exit, beer 5 miles, beer 2 miles, beer. So I was joke around. I'd be I'd drive right by the exit, right? And he'd be like, what the fuck? Hey, you jabroni! He like to start yelling at me. Oh, Sheik, I'm sorry. And then, like, he'd be telling me the whole time. Hey, maybe we get better. I act like I'm stupid. Like I just drive past and go, geez, Sheik, maybe we'll get down the road. It'll be some, and I'd pull out the next exit, buy a beer. But we did that routine like 3 or 4 times in a row. I'd pull the same rib on him. He would fall for it every time, pitch the same fit. I would just pull off the next exit. So he was a trip. We get in the car when I would pick him up. He would tell me the Hulk Hogan story, like every time he pick him up. Like he forgot he'd tell me the previous time. And there would be some trips we'd take. We would go down to like Pensacola and stuff, and I'd be with the Sheik for like 2 days, 2-3 days. And he liked to go. He didn't like to pay for food when we stopped at food. He think he's the Iron Sheik. I don't pay. Just figured he always had a bag of autographed pictures, or just pictures, and he would just like, hey, hit a picture. Food is free. He thinks like he's leaving an autographed picture for the Sheik, just get everything free. And I'd be like, geez, I'd have to pay for it. I'm not gonna drive away and have the cops come and for like what I'm saying. I was still. I'm still like an educated guy. Like, I got to see just, we can't just leave and not pay. They may call the cops and they see we're driving. So, but he would do that, and he wouldn't want to pay for drinks. He'd always just give people autographed pictures. But the funniest thing is he would always, like, if we were at we were on the beach in Pensacola one time. Because we had a day off. We're down there, and like we had to drive just an hour drive. So we go like, Sheik, want to go to the beach before the show? Sure. So he would be on the beach, with his, the boots and everything. Yeah, walking in the back and just walking up to people. And this is how he'd do it. Like, this was his routine. He'd have pictures with them. If he saw people recognize him, he would say, hey, I give you a picture. You give me $1 for. He only wanted $1 back then. That's like he'd have this picture. Hey, maybe give me $1 for charity. That's just what he'd say. So people would like, just hand him a picture and they'd be all right. Reach in their pocket and give him $1. So the funniest thing is, like, so we go to the beach one day, and the Sheik's got his things up there. There's people walking around like bikinis and bathing suits, and Sheik's walking up like, hey, give me a picture, they give her $1 for charity. People have on like their bathing suits. They're like, and actually, I have no money. And so the funniest thing was one day. He would always go, give me $1 for charity. Give me $1 for charity. So one day, like, I'll never forget. It was a guy, 3 kids, family, like husband and wife and stuff. And he goes, hey, did you give picture for charity? Give me $1 for charity. And the guy goes, what charity is this? And Sheik's like, he has this look on his face, like, Oklahoma City bombing. All right, it's like that's what the charity Sheik would say, like, hey, you're giving it to the Oklahoma City bombing charity. Like, he was just keeping the money, of course, So, yeah. Jesus,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, what gimmick did you do when you started wrestling?
Well, they did this stupid thing with me. That was when I trained. They had a TV show called North Georgia Championship Wrestling. Right, that's where I trained. It's the Alfred Auction Barn. This little, typical indie stuff. So. And they made me, they did TV taping, and they called me the slave. And I came out with like this manager lady, this lady, I even forgot what her name was, but this lady manager would have me like, I'd be like a Roman slave. Have like the slave. So that lasted one TV taping, right? So then I became the Brooklyn Stud, and my name's Glenn Gilberti, right? But the show had this guy named, his name was Sammy Kent, right? And he's passed, but he was illiterate. He couldn't really read and write that good, right? So he was the announcer on the TV show. And so my debut match, like it says, had my name is Glenn Gilberti. They're just gonna have me wrestle with my real name, right? He goes, we've got the kid making his debut. He's gonna be Glenn Gilbernetti. He's gonna be. They call me Glenn Gilbernetti on TV. Everybody thought my name was Glenn Gilbernetti from that day forward, because that's the first time he said it on TV. Wrestling Observer would say Glenn Gilbernetti. So it was Glenn Gilbernetti. So I was like the Brooklyn Stud, Glenn Gilbernetti. That's what I started just calling myself, because that's what everybody was calling me. But my name was Gilberti. And I would have just been Glenn Gilberti. But they just mispronounced my name. So I was the Brooklyn Stud, Glenn Gilbernetti, and then I did a gimmick called what would we call like a chip and I forgot the Bod Squad. Okay, me and another guy, Ashley Clark. He was a good worker too. He ended up being he went on another tag team called the Convicts, but me and him were the Bod Squad. Glenn Gilbernetti, the gorgeous Glenn, and Bodacious Blade, the Bod Squad. So it's typical indie gimmicks, like for a couple of years. But then I graduated. I'd met Ray. I knew Raven back then, and like we were hanging out, like and stuff and everything. And we brainstormed, and then he came up with the Disco Inferno gimmick. And I just started like I really wasn't doing it. I was just like, hey, this is an idea for a gimmick, and so he got me booked in Memphis. Raven was working in Memphis at the time to do the Disco Inferno gimmick. So I went, but they like called me like, hey, could you do? It's like a Wednesday, Can you do TV? Come to Memphis to do TV Saturday, or do you want the Disco Inferno? It's like, oh shit, I don't even have any outfit. I had to go I'd go to a thrift store and just buy some makeshift stuff to put on, to do the gimmick. And if you ever see the video, there's a video out there on YouTube. It's funny, So my debut, like him introducing me in Memphis, stuff and it was just ridiculous. I looked like a disco guy, just like a cheesy 70s disco character, and I started doing that. I worked in Memphis for like 5 weeks, and I was still green, it wasn't that good, but I was all right, wasn't bad, but they just didn't use me anymore. So I thought maybe that gimmick is no good, so I just quit doing that gimmick again. I think I was the Brooklyn Stud, Glenn Gilbernetti again on indie shows and stuff, but but at that time wrestling was just like, you know how it is on the indies, like you're trying to make it, but you're in that no man's land sometime where you're just doing indie work and you're not making a lot for your matches, you're just learning and you're trying to figure things out, and that's what I was doing back then. And until they had like Paige knew Jake, and like that's when I started hanging with this. Hey, you need to start doing this gimmick again. The Disco Inferno. Then that's when I was driving with Jake, and he was like educating me how to do that character. But I there was a period of time I just tried it. It didn't work. Quit doing it, and then started doing it again.
Did you like disco music at all?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I wasn't like I liked growing up. This is back in the early '90s. I liked classic rock and roll back then. Like everybody, I like classic rock and roll. I graduated to I like disco music. That was fun. But I really started liking disco music when when house music became like a thing. I started liking house music and stuff, and like dance music and stuff but that and rock and roll is what I kind of grew up on. But I like the to me the disco character was a good character, because like with the music it's just easy. I thought it was like it'd be easy to do, and I like disco music enough to be like, okay, this I can have fun with this.
Did you like Saturday Night Fever?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's what the character is like, basically just, John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever. I kind of looked similar features, Italian guy. I had the big hair back then and stuff and everything and all that. I looked the part, That's what I did. I did the white suit was like my first, where I got enough money to invest in the gimmick. The white suit was the first, the first thing that people saw.
It says on the internet that you had a stint in WWE early in your career.
Never. I went. The only thing I ever did was drove to a show with Brian Clark, and like when he worked, he was at a boss. That was it. I never met Vince McMahon.
Okay.
Never met Vince McMahon. I met Shane. Never met Vince. I knew Hunter. Me and Hunter were hanging out right before when he was in that the no compete in between WCW and before we went to WWE, and I hadn't been signed yet by WCW, okay. But we were like friends. We hung out. The wrestlers back in Atlanta, we hung out. Yeah. We'd go to the pool together and stuff, and because we were wrestling, we had a bunch of time to kill during the week. Nobody it was the indie guys. So like you're working on the weekends all week, you're doing nothing. Yeah. So the wrestlers kind of like. If you're in the business, you started working out with the guy, just start hanging out with him, So
what was Triple H like in those days?
Good. I mean, he's cool. Kind of like identical to the way you see him now, like the way he presents himself, But he was it was funny because we went to we used to hang out. We go to the strip joints together and stuff and everything and all that. And, he was a big. It was funny too. He became like I remember when he left W. He was, because this is the part where he left WCW, right? I was giving this part. He was always kind of like critical of Flair a little bit. Like the way Flair would talk to him and stuff and all that. But they became good friends and when they went to WWE together. But I thought that was entertaining. That like I knew him, and then he became the Clique. Then I became friends with Kevin and Scott after that, and I could see how all these guys were friends with each other when I was friends with them, because we had just similar interest or knowledge of the business. Just because we all kind of thought alike, about the business. And Joe, we all had similar, kind of creative, kind of like, had cool conversations about things, like angles and stuff and everything. So that's what I remember.
Have you run into him at all again since you had all this?
Just one time at a show, and I was in San Diego with Conan. We went backstage at a WWE show one time. I think it was a SmackDown taping, and I ran into him, shook his hand, gave him a hug, just, hey, what's going on? Just had like a minute of conversation. That's about it.
Okay.
Oh no, and also too, no, that's not entirely accurate. Before that, when he had this is later, okay, but earlier in the career, when he had torn his quad. Okay, before Kevin, this is when WCW went out of business, and before Kevin had gone to when WCW went out of business, and Kevin wasn't working. Okay, he was collecting money from WCW that they owed him, and so Hunter had torn his quad, and he was rehabbing with Dr. Andrews in Alabama, in Birmingham. And me and Kevin went to go see him because Hunter was like, they actually had a. I guess this is way back when, the early 2000s. I guess they had so many wrestlers used to go see Dr. Andrews in Birmingham. They had a ring there. They had a ring at Dr. Andrews, the rehab center with all the football players. Everything had a wrestling ring there because I guess they had so many wrestlers. Like they go to rehab, they go in the ring. So I went and I worked out with Hunter. Like when I just he bumped us around, he was rehabbing, so I just went. Bumped around with him, and that's when Kevin got in the ring, because Kevin hadn't worked in like maybe a year. Kevin got in the ring, showed Hunter what he could do. After that, Hunter went back up north and stuff, and then Kevin went back up north too. So
he didn't want to help you.
I didn't really. You know what? Here was the thing: when WCW went out of business, this is kind of like sketchy details, because to me, like, things happen. And a lot of time has gone by, so it's like of all the things that happened in my career, it's like, Jesus, it's like 18 years ago, so it's hard to remember like exact details of certain things, But just the one thing I remember is that like when WCW was going out of business, is that Johnny Ace and I did not get, not that we didn't get along, like we were professional with each other, but when he had come in, he was telling people, hey, we're coming in here, we're gonna take over, I was on the booking team with, so we're gonna get rid of Disco and stuff, and he didn't realize, he's telling people this, hey, I'm friends with these, they're coming and telling me what he's saying.
Yeah.
So I was just very, I didn't have a high opinion of him, because this guy's behind my, he's talking cool in my face, behind my back, he's telling people, they've got no reason to lie to me, he's my good friend. So I just did not have a high opinion of him, but this is 18 years ago, so it's like, so when WCW went out of business, I had come off a period of time where I was booking for 9 months, and then then I was off the booking team. Then like the last maybe 6 weeks to 2 months more WCW, and then we were done. I was burnt out. I mean, I was just like, because it's just a lot of work. I was working, going on the road, come home, and we'd wake up on Wednesday morning, and I have to go to the booking meetings and stuff. In Atlanta, so I was just completely burnt out. So I wasn't really, eager to like, geez, I want time off, kind of, right? And I forgot the conversations exactly how they went, but I remember that Johnny Ace had called me up and said that, hey, we're talking about we got to talk about whether or not we're going to bring you in for a deal, because the thing was with me, back then we had your contracts were in 4 quarters, okay, so I was in the I had a whole quarter left when WCW went out of business of getting paid a good chunk of change, because I was making $350 a year guaranteed. So I was going to have 1 quarter, because like right when we went out of business, my quarter just started. I was going to get a quarter of money for doing nothing.
So I'm like, okay. So like when WCW when they went out of business, I was like, I'd heard stories back then that like the WWE locker room was not that. Like they weren't doing that, I just heard it was just one like the boys up there weren't happy, So and I was burnt out, so I was just like, hey, I'll just stay home and just, who would? I mean, theoretically, it's like you're making $80,000 for 3 months to do nothing, So 80 whatever it was,
and
so I
was
just
working for like 6 years straight.
Yeah. So it's like and so I guess they had like they were talking about doing a deal or something. I forget if they had called me from the point when the contract started, or whether they were talking to me after my quarter ended, like 3 months later. But I thought that, because like back then you were hearing stories about, they forgot guys' contracts were rolling over, and like they would get another quarter paid to do absolutely nothing because they forget, this guy's but I'll never forget, bro. They called me like the day before my contract was getting ready to extend. They say, hey, we're canceling your contract. I'm like, all right, well, that makes sense. Company's out of business, everything. And I just can't remember if I had the conversation then or there, but they had said like, hey, we got to talk about like coming in for to doing a deal. And I don't know if there was a deal where I was supposed to call them back or they were supposed to get back in touch with me, but we never corresponded after that. And I just remember that one conversation with Ace, and I just never went to WWE. But during that time, so my contract expired, there was the small period of time there where Jarrett was thinking of starting up TNA, but we were doing this guy Andrew McManus, the Australian promoter, the concert promoter, was bringing us over and paying us really good money to go overseas.
Right.
And I was like, okay, this is, I'm fine with this. Like, I'll just, because I'd never really done like, gone to Japan and Australia, just like for like as an independent guy traveling the world. I'd always done it with WCW, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Let me, I got money in the bank. This guy's paying me like, wow, I can't believe how much you're paying me for like 10 days,
Yeah.
So I was just doing that, and as I was doing that, and then like TNA started, so I just never really went to like didn't WWE, never pursued it, never called and asked, hey, you guys interested in me? I just never like did that, so that's how that went.
Now, how did you actually get your WCW job to get back into that?
To get back into it after I got fired, or to get back into it?
No, sorry, we got off track of it and skipped ahead.
Oh, you're right.
You were about to talk about Paige.
Oh, no, okay, so here's the thing. So I started doing the Disco Inferno character in this, it was Mid-South, they started Mid-South Wrestling up again, and in Mississippi, and they were doing TV tapings on shows and in like Indian reservation casinos and stuff. And like buildings and like that's the one where I had to go over and pick up Jake and bring him over there. Hillbilly cousin Luke was like running the show. It's where first time I'd met Ole Anderson. He had gone over there and like was helping out. It's actually a pretty good production. It was Dick Murdoch, Hercules Hernandez, Terry Taylor was one of the people helping run the show there too. And I was going to go do the Disco Inferno gimmick again, right? So I'll never forget. I'm a green indie guy. Hey, do the Disco Inferno. They didn't really know me because I'd only done the gimmick in Memphis, right? Terry Taylor liked the idea of the gimmick, so I went and wrestled a match. I forgot who. It just doesn't matter. I put some guy over, but Terry saw me work, and like we were gonna do another taping the next day, and Terry was like, "Hey, I'm gonna work you. This is gonna be fun, right?" Because he liked the gimmick and something. But when I did it, they were just beating me. But I was still doing the gimmick. I was getting good heat from the crowd. It was like I was getting a good reaction. Like the crowd was like, they did not like me. This is the South. This is Jackson, Mississippi. This is, I'm out there doing disco, and they're like, they're like, you faggot. So there's good heat, right? So we did some tours over there, like back and forth, and like they didn't call me for a month. Then Terry Taylor called me back again. It's like, hey, we're going to do another taping. He goes, we're watching the TV. He's like, you were one of the only guys that had any heat. I was like, all right. So then I had to go over with Terry. So because they weren't using Jake anymore, because Jake was doing crack and they're like losing all his,
Was that around the Heroes of Wrestling time? Because I think that was
maybe because I just remember they quit using Jake because he was just a mess. It was just like he'd get to the show and want the money and then like he'd want to draw. This is indie wrestling. It's not like and then like hours later he'd want another draw after he go so I was like it's crazy. So
So I went and did that, and so then Terry Taylor was like, I don't know if he was working with WCW at the time and doing that. He was like an agent WCW, but like him and Paige got me a tryout with WCW at this time. So I'm like kind of fresh off the Mississippi stuff, starting to do the gimmick again. I'm improving. So I'm working better guys. I'm working guys like Terry Taylor and stuff, and so they got me a tryout, and Chris, I did my tryout match with Canyon, and the fans this is at the old Center Stage tapings, right? In Atlanta. So a lot of the people that used to go to the North Georgia wrestling shows that knew me from there would go to those tapings. So there's like those are small shows. It'd be like 400 people, 500 people there, whatever it was. Like the old TV, the old studio shows. Not the studio shows, but the
Centers.
Yeah, Center Stage. So so I had some fans in the crowd, right? So I go out and do my tryout match, and back then WCW was not doing that good business, I do my tryout match, and these guys, the North Georgia fans in the crowd, the guys I knew and stuff, they started the Disco Sucks chant. So I'm doing my tryout match, and I'm getting one of the best reactions of anybody on the show. Crowds yelling, "Disco sucks, disco play." What I'm saying? And I mean, I'm wrestling Canyon. Can't possibly have a bad meal. Me and Canyon used to train together and wrestle, so we knew it was going to be, it was a good match. Yeah. And I was getting good heat, and they went back. I went backstage. They hired me on the spot.
Who was it that actually hired you? Bischoff?
Terry Taylor. The Bischoff will talk to you. They hired me on the spot. Kevin Sullivan was there too, and
was
they
Terry
hired
Taylor
me.
Talent relations at that time.
I think he was just an agent, talent, whatever he was. But he was. They hired me on the spot. And then I met with Eric. I had to go meet with Eric another day to talk about exactly what my deal would be, and that was it. So, but they hired me on the spot because because I remember coming back. For me it was Arn Anderson. So, damn kid, you more heat than anybody out there. I was like, it's a good gimmick, So still to this day, it's still kind of tried and true,
Why do so many people hate Terry Taylor? Is it just because
I don't know, man. Me and him always got along. Maybe because he's smart, and sometimes he doesn't know he's condescending. Sometimes, what I'm saying, like he rubs people the wrong way. But I've never had a problem with Terry. I know a lot of friends of mine in the business have. They don't speak highly of him. They hate him and stuff and everything. But like I do the podcast with Coney, he calls him Terry the Stooge Taylor. When they did Coney did the racial discrimination suit against him, didn't say very good things about Terry. But Terry to me was like, I was like, bro, if you're talent relations, that's not the likable guy spot. It's like you're stuck in the spot where you got to be the office stooge and tell the bosses what's going on, and that's like I would never want that spot. You know what I'm saying? And I think maybe there's a thing where like maybe a lot of guys that have had that spot in the past, the boys have had heat with them, because like a lot of the boys would never do what those guys do. You know what I'm saying? To be you're the office stooge guy, But you kind of have to have one. Who's supposed to have the boys aren't telling the boss anything, So you have to have the guy, the stooge, is telling the boss what's going on if everybody's screwing up and stuff. And so I always understood that Terry was in a bad spot, but I can understand why people don't like him. But I can see I would never want that spot. I would never want to be the stooge that you have to go. I work a job now, and I'm the guy that I'm not the guy that will ever tell on anybody I work with. But if the boss comes and asks me something, I'm going to tell you the truth. You know what I'm saying? So that's like the difference. But the guy that just goes and rats on people, that's never been me. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I'm assuming that's why Terry probably has a lot of heat, because that's the spot he had for so long.
And what were your first impressions of the WCW locker room?
My first day at work, after I got hired, the first day I showed up was the day that Paul Orndorff got in a fight with Vader. I showed up 2 minutes after they got in a fight, and I was like, holy God. I'm still from the suburbs of Marietta, Georgia. Went to private school. Now I'm in the wrestling business, and I show up in the locker room, and Paul Orndorff just beat up Vader. And I looked at Vader, and he's sitting there with an ice pack on his face. His face looks like a big giant herpes sore or something. Like he's all puffed up or whatever. It's just so he's just a mess. I was thinking to myself, God, because I wasn't like I was an amateur wrestler or college football player or barroom brawler. I was thinking, Jesus Christ, if I screw up here, is the guy's going to try and beat me up or something? I didn't know what the locker room culture was like. It's my first day in the locker room, and I'm walking in 2 minutes after Paul Orndorff was kicking Vader in the face. I'd seen one locker room fight my entire like 3.5 years before that. And I'm like, shh, man.
That was with Shane Helms, right?
The Kid Vicious.
Yeah.
Kid Vicious, yeah, that's great. Isn't that hysterical? Did you hear that in the podcast that time when I told that story? I was like, I'd never he's like, you were Kid Vicious? I was like, that's the only thing. The only time I'd ever seen a fight was when Shane Helms got in a fight with my trainer at a show. That's the only thing I'd ever seen,
So I'm guessing you realized that was like a rare incident after the...
Oh, of course, yeah. Because all the guys, once I got in the locker room, and you just realize it's a brotherhood. You know how it is. It's just everybody's like, we're all with each other. These guys we're with each other. I wasn't married or nothing, but like they're with us more than they are with their families.
Yeah.
So you got the kind of that bond with everybody. Not everybody liked each other, but everybody always. There was never any heat where like. Guys were gonna fight each other like after that. Like when you see two guys, like what I'm saying, like wow, that must have been. I can't imagine what this was like
until the Scott Steiner days.
You're right. Yeah, so it's like this is like 1995, and I'd heard stories from like 1995 before where the Steiner, Scott Steiner, Bill Watson. I'm hearing this, and it's kind of like Paul Orndorff and Vader, but like after Paul Orndorff and Vader, there wasn't really nothing. Except of course at that time with Page and Steiner at the, but that was
Steiner threw a TV at Terry Taylor too.
Oh, I felt so bad for Terry, man. He'd be at that gorilla position, and you wouldn't today in this PC world we live in today. There's no way Terry Taylor would have been treated like he was treated. If people treated Terry Taylor like he was treated, they would have been fired. That's how much abuse that guy took verbally from it was brutal. He got cussed. I see Macho Man, Scott Steiner. I've seen Nash. He's been cussed out in front of in front of everybody.
What would Macho Man's issue have been, for example?
Terry Taylor's just like it's just like bad. Like if something like like Terry would tell Macho, he's supposed to have 9 minutes, right? Hey, Macho, you only have 6. But Terry's the one that has to tell him. It's not his fault that the guys out there went. Then Macho would be like, "Fuck you, tell you, motherfucker! You're trying to ruin my career." Just screaming at him like Jesus Christ. So I felt like going like Macho. I felt like saying, "Hey, take it easy on the guy. It's not his fault." I felt sorry for Terry sometimes. He would just get abused and he would just sit there and just. He just have to take it. But they didn't. The office did not protect his spot at all. They let those guys just completely abuse him. But back then, the locker room culture was different. Guys would just the guys would yell at Terry Taylor. That was the thing. Like, there's no way these days guys, you can't cuss office people out in front of in front of office and stuff and everything. You just don't do that.
Did you have any other experiences with Macho Man backstage?
No, not me and Macho were cool. He was He was cool with me. I'll tell you one thing though. To this, I didn't really repeat this story, but there was a spot where I wrestled him and he was doing his loose cannon thing. And they were putting him over strong because they were building him up for the belt, right? And there was a spot where he was like the loose cannon, so he beat me, but he was going to drop like 3 or 4 elbows on me, from the top rope, just to like wipe me out, And he dropped one of them and it landed on my shoulder. Bro, I never got it fixed, and to this day my shoulder hurts. I just never got it. It's just my shoulder just hadn't been right since then, But it wasn't like it's just sore, But like this is from a Macho Man elbow. This is hell like 98. What's it 98 now? So 20 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
I never had to operate on it or nothing, so I was like but that's that. But I'll never forget one time. They just had the Andre special, the HBO documentary. They were when they were talking about Andre didn't like Macho, and they were telling the story about how Macho did, they didn't like Macho because he had oil or like he was ran his mouth. It's like that's not, he didn't like Macho because Andre did not like the way Macho treated Elizabeth. That's the story, okay? And that comes from, Gene and Bobby and stuff. We would talk about it, right? And I remember they were talking about Andre one day, and Macho was like, you know, like Macho was there, and everybody's telling Andre stories. So there'd be people tell Andre stories, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember Macho was telling one story one time. He's like, yeah, brother. He's like, because I'm in the match with him. We weren't talking about like I think Randy knew why Andre didn't like him, you know, but like they didn't talk about that in the documentary. But he was talking about one match he had with Andre, where he was gonna do, you know, you do the spot where like you hit the ropes and hit Andre for the tackle and bounce off and stuff, everything. And Macho was just like, yeah, man. It's like I go to hit him with the one tackle, you know, and then I go and hit him, you know, hit the ropes again. I go to hit the other tackle. He just sticks his fist out. He fucking busted my nose. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, you know. It's like Andre, like that. That's how Andre would abuse him.
Yeah.
You know, like he just didn't, you know, punch him in the face, you know, but hard. You know, like broke his nose, you know. And like Macho's telling me that story, you know, that yeah, Andre didn't like me. That's, you know, that's you know, so I didn't tell that story in the documentary, but that Macho told me that story.
I heard he did that to Warrior too. I've heard actually.
Maybe, yeah, but they don't like, you know, they don't talk. Yeah, that's they're just. Andre didn't like them for other, you know, because he thought that they were oil.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm gonna punch you in the face because you got oil on. He's like, geez, you know, it's like Jesus. Oh man.
Yeah, because in those days everyone had like tons of oil on them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you had a lot of matches with Eddie Guerrero in WCW. What were
like a handful, just great. But I to this day I tell everybody he's the best. I can just speak on guys I've been in the ring with. By far the best performer I've been in the ring with. Just great. I mean, he's just, I don't think he his only flaw might have been he was undersized. He had no zero flaws in his work, just nothing. I mean, his selling, his fire, his everything. He just looked tough, you know, worked tough, you know, stuff and anything. I just tell people to this day, I said the best in-ring performer, hands down, head and shoulders. I've been in the ring with all those guys, you know, was Eddie Guerrero. The best in-ring experience I ever had was against Ric Flair, because it was the first time I'd ever been in the ring with somebody and literally felt like I was like motionless and being dragged through the match. Like he's literally, like I'm not consciously doing anything. He is like hypnotically pulling me through the way he worked and just positioned you and stuff and everything he did. I'd never experienced anything like that before wrestling Ric Flair, because he was that good at professional wrestling that's why he could wrestle anybody. Yeah. And did for you're the champ, you have to go wrestle you go all over, and that's how he learned. He just, you know, everybody says like Rick always had the same match, but it's like try going out there making the guy all these different workers he's worked against have the same match with all these different guys with different styles. It's hard to do. You know, it's hard to have the same match with Rufus R. Jones that you're having with Nikita Koloff. You know, like saying it's just so that's just like Rick was just like an incredible experience in the ring. You know, I only wrestled him like maybe 3 times, but it was like, wow, how does this guy do this? I go, this is his brilliance. You know, it's I couldn't even comprehend like how do I learn how to do that? You know, it's like where I can just, you know, like you're make it look like you're combating the guy, but he's really positioning you to do this. It was weird. I was like, it was crazy, you know?
I always think about that in my company, because sometimes wrestlers will say, I don't want to work with this inexperienced person that's below me.
Right.
If you're that good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Because I was like, you know, I wasn't green, but I wasn't as seasoned as him. And I'm like, wow, no wonder this guy's...
Was that the Thunder match, or did you have multiple matches?
No, the first match I had was on a house show in Lakeland, Florida. And we went out there, and this was like, you know, and it was the first time I'd ever done this with anybody. I told him, I said, you know, before we went through the curtain, this is the first time I ever wrestled Ric Flair. I was like, I just got to tell you, man, it's like, you know, this is like a dream come true experience for a guy like me. I grew up watching you, you know, and you're one of the reasons, like, people want to become wrestlers. It's incredible to be able to do this. He was like, man, thank you very much. I really appreciate that, you know, thing. And so we went out there, and I was like, wow, this is just... And the guys like you, I would always have good matches because I sold for everybody. They like working with me because I make their stuff look good. So he would chop me and I would sell like I got shot, you know. So it's like it was good, you know. If nobody's ever, the guys have wrestled Flair. I don't know if they would tell this similar story, but if you haven't wrestled Ric Flair and you wrestle Ric Flair, you just know the difference, you know.
Now, you also had some matches with Kevin Sullivan. What did you think of him as a wrestler?
I don't think I had. Did I work Kevin?
According to the issue that you did, so maybe it's wrong.
No. You know what I was? Here's the thing. I don't think I ever worked. Guys, back in WCW, did I work with it? Because here's the thing. I was supposed to have a match with them on a. It was one of those live shows like Clash of the Champions or something like that. I was supposed to have a match with them. Kevin was just going to go out and squash me because he was doing the Dungeon of Doom back then. Jimmy Hart said went to Kevin and said, hey, we can't beat Disco. He's getting hot. You know, like saying there was no reason for like Jimmy Hart liked my character because he wrote the music for it. You know, when he found the Disco character, he just said, oh my God, I love this. You know, so he was like, Jimmy helped me a lot. You know, he did the music and everything. But I was supposed to wrestle him on that show, but they took me out and I did a spot where Colonel Parker was marrying Sensational Sherry, okay, and like it's funny because I remember seeing something like in things like Kevin Sullivan went out for the match and I didn't show up or something like that because I think it says Kevin Sullivan beat Disco Inferno, like would be part of the results, and I'll be like I never wrestled him, but the result was Kevin Sullivan beat Disco Inferno by count out or DQ because I didn't show up for the match because I was at the wedding spot because the show was in Vegas at Caesar's Palace, and I think that's because I don't recall ever working with Kevin in the ring. You know, maybe we did it once, probably just a brawl, but I mean that's like I said, if I did and he remembers it, you know, but I don't recall wrestling him.
And how did you find him as a booker?
He was he's a brilliant guy, very intelligent, very creative. But back then, you know, the thing in WCW was the NWO and Heat, you know, and stuff like that. Me and a lot of the other mid-card guys, we just never really got the feeling that they really cared a lot about like the underneath stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like when I just always thought that I could be like another honky tonk man, you know, give me a belt and like give me a run with it. With like some angles against guys instead, just give me the belt for like a couple months, just go out there and do a 12-minute match on TV and that's it. You know what I'm saying? I thought there was a lot more that could have been done and that they never you know that he never did. You know, so I mean, but he was very very intelligent. You know, I mean, I'm not gonna. I just thought it was underutilized. But that's not a knock on him or anything. But you know, a lot of mid-card guys were underutilized back then. But that's just the way it was. It was the top guys and the mid-card guys. You know, the mid-card guys didn't have a lot of angles. The top guys did. The top guys got all the interview time. The mid-card guys didn't really get much. You know. But what are you gonna do? That was the same playing field for me as anybody else. So, you know. But what are you gonna argue with? We're doing these ridiculous ratings. You know, like the ratings are going through the roof. We're doing good business. You know, everything's sold out, and you're along for the ride, working in, you know, sold out house shows and sold out TVs every night for a couple of years. So it's like, what can I say? You know? Yeah.
How was your popularity then outside, like when you were in the mall or going around because wrestling was so popular?
It was very. When the thing was because when you're in the boys, we all travel together, right? So all I can really speak of is like, you know, when we were in the town that night that we're wrestling in, and like we would go to the mall or we go to eat. I mean, 100% of the time somebody recognized us, like at least somebody or people coming. You know, just everywhere we went, you get to just when it's like we always traveled in groups. You know, 3 or 4 of us. Everywhere you went, somebody knew who you were. I mean, it was the height of popularity, you know. But when I was back in Atlanta, you know, I grew up there my whole life, so you know, I'd go out and people knew. So yeah, of course I'm recognizable, but I'm recognizable because I've lived there too for a long time, and I knew a lot of people, you know. So, but yeah, just it was just really crazy how popular we were back then.
Was there groupies and everything in those days?
Do you know what the thing was? We didn't. There was, okay, but it's funny because like the whole like ring rat groupie scenes, everything. It's not what you think, because the older guys, okay, they would like hang out at the hotel bar, and the groupies and the ring rats were all like older. You know, they were like you know, the chicks that were the groupies when they were 25 years old were groupies when they were 38. You know, they're kind of like the same ones, you know. So, and they would always hang out with them. We would always go like our crew. We go to the hotel bar just to grab one beer, round everybody up, find out where the strip joint was, go to the strip joint, and when you're at the strip joint, okay, well, where are the clubs? Okay, and then from the strip joint we go to the clubs. Okay, where's the after hours? All right, that's what we do. Our crew was going out, so it wasn't like the groupies aren't out. You know, we're not. You know, we're not going where the groupies are. We're going out on the town. You know what I'm saying? The groupies are coming to the hotel,
Right.
and we were never really our crew was not the hotel crew. You know, all the older guys were like the hotel crew.
So you weren't going back to your hotel and popping in a video game in those days?
No, God. No, I'll tell you what. Some of the guys there was a period of time, even like the guys would bring video games and stuff, everything. If there was like a dead town, like we went out. Or like I wasn't a video gamer, but like my crew was. We'd go out and there wasn't nothing going on. We'd go back to the hotel and go play video games. But it wasn't like you were leaving the show to go to your room and go play video games. You were leaving the show. Hey, what are we doing tonight? If there's nothing to do, okay, let's just go to the room and play video games. That's the difference, you know.
Now you had some matches with Alex Wright, and you also were tag team partner with him twice, I guess, for 2 different runs. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, great. I loved being with Alex. We drove a lot. He was funny too, man, because he was like German, you know, and his wife. He would always, back then we get the old school cell phones. You know, we started with when we started WCW, we were still in the beeper age. Right. You know, you had a beeper and payphone. You know, that's how you communicate with people and stuff. And then all of a sudden the cell phones came out. And everybody had like the old school cell phones. And I'll never forget when we were driving with Alex. When the cell phones came out, Alex was like, okay, this is great. Now, I could talk to my wife like 10 times a day. And it would just be the same conversation every time. Like, leave it, He's like, I love you, honey, move a smooch. It's like hours in the car with this guy. Every 5 minutes he's picking up the phone like, leave it. So, and it was funny too because he was always real healthy conscious when we travel with the food, and he would always need like we go like you want egg whites and tell them they want cooking with cooking spray. This is back before like egg whites and this is but back then things were like we were the day and the age of like carbohydrates are still like a big deal. Steamed hash browns, Waffle House, and egg whites and chicken breast. That's what guys would eat. And Alex was always a pain in the ass because he would have. His order would have to be perfect. So, I mean, that was just like, to have like a hamburger or something. But I'm still in shape though. But I would eat healthy when I was home. But he was a great worker. He was tough too. I'll tell you what, like there'd be times when I want to shoot. Alex was a shooter. His dad was a shooter. He knew how to shoot. I didn't grow up with any amateur wrestling experience. So if a guy ever wanted to shoot on me out there, I'm shit creek without a paddle. But it was funny because like guys would we'd work and guys tough guys we'd work tough guys and they chop me they kind of try to rough me up a little bit. I just sell. When Alex would get in there, he'd kind of get hot. Right. But these guys are trying to make us look bad, and Alex would it's like damn, like it's kind of like trying to give it to some of these guys. So it's like a lot of the tough guys. Alex didn't take shit from anybody in that ring. And he would get his shit in. He was like You're not gonna job me out. But that's the psychology he learned from his dad. His dad was a shooter. Dad was a champion in Europe and stuff for years. So you're not gonna make Alex look bad. You know what I'm saying? Me, if they would just beat me up, I would just sell. So.
And you had a match against Bulldog and Jim Neidhart, I guess, in WCW. What was that match like?
But back those guys were kind of strange. They would be off on their own. They'd disappear. Couldn't find them. Stuff. But that's the match where he said that he hurt his back on the trap door, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's again. He's like suit. Yeah, but like, you know what? I heard. I don't know the details of it. Maybe you can help me out on this. I'd heard that the details were that he didn't know that there was a trap door, and so he took a bump and I'm like, that's completely. You heard that too? That's what I heard. So I'm like, that's complete fabrication. That trap door. Everybody and their mother knew the trap door was there that day because they told, hey, there's a trap door in the ring because a lot of us would go out in the ring before the match. So everybody knew it was a trap door. And something like maybe it was a deal because you couldn't find. Maybe when we went over the match with those guys, we didn't go in the ring. But I find it very hard to believe that they did not know that there was a trapdoor because the whole crew knew about the trapdoor. So that's not like it wasn't like it's there's a trapdoor in here like we found out when we walked out there for the match. Right. So that I always thought that I was like he's suing for that. So I was like that's strange because we all knew it was a trapdoor, So but it wasn't a very good match. Those guys were. They just weren't, they were all WWE guys on top and stuff and everything, and they're working with us, so they made like we were below them or something. It just wasn't a good match. One a good experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any contact with the Warrior? Speaking of the Warrior,
briefly, not really. When he came to WCW, it was kind of funny because the boys that knew him, because he'd been gone for a while, and he came back, and it was funny. Who was I talking to? Maybe it was Duggan or somebody. It was like just funny because like Warriors reconnect with all his WWE friends and stuff in the hour, and they're funny because like they're coming to me talking about how Warriors referring to himself in third person when he's talking to the boys. So I was like, wow, Warriors, like he's just talking like like he's doing an interview, but he's in the locker room. It's like it's just weird. The guy was weird. The guy was weird. But I'll tell you this was stories I heard about him, that people tell me were interesting. I always tell this story too. Is that God, I used to tell so much better years ago when I knew the exact details, but he was very strict on his diet, like what he would eat. Like supposedly he would only don't quote me exactly on this, but like hypothetically speaking, right? It was grilled chicken breast, egg whites, bagels, bananas, and maybe like just one other thing. Like that's all he ate, right? And he took remember the mini thins?
Yes.
He would use take 15 of those at a time. Okay, like you're supposed to take like 2 mini thins back then. You'd take like 15 at a time and go to like a bottle like every other day supposedly. I was like, Jesus, is that safe? But back then it's like, no, I'm like, that can't possibly be safe. I'm educated enough to know, like, okay, it says take 2, this for your heart or whatever, it's not good for you, right? So he would take like 15 of those days, but what the thing was, the people would tell me, I don't know if you've heard this before, but they said that when he would want to cheat on his diet, say like for instance there's a cheat day or whatever you want to cheat. He would run, or maybe he'd cheat every day doing this, but he would take like a cookie. Okay, he wouldn't eat cookies. So he'd have like a specific thing to eat. He would take the cookie and he'd like crumble it up in his hands and he'd smell it to get the smell sensation without having the calories. And he would do that with like desserts and stuff and everything. That's what he would do. Is like he would smell the food so he didn't ingest the bad calories. All he would eat was the chicken breast, the egg whites, the bagels, the bananas, whatever it was. And I thought it's like, wow, that's kind of like, who would think of that, He was just like kind of like, that's how kind of, like I've never heard of anybody on the planet like ever like even speaking this everything. But the Warrior, that's what he would do. He was just like different, man. It's very strange,
And I could picture him doing that too.
Right. Yeah, exactly, right?
So I guess you ran into some controversy with this Jacqueline angle, if you want to explain that whole situation.
Well, this is before, okay, so when they had Jackie on TV, and she was beating people up, and she'd just she's fresh off, like, jumping Chris Benoit from behind him, clobbering, right? So they wanted her to go and beat a guy, right? And they weren't doing anything with me and stuff and anything. So they called, it was kind of weird. Instead of just telling me this at the show, and they had me go down to offices, like the WCW office, hey, come in for a meeting, gotta meet with me and Kevin, and Eric. And they go and meet, and they're telling me, they want us to have a match with Jacqueline, and they want me to put her over. And I was like, the intergender stuff hadn't been done yet. This is before China and stuff and all that. So it's like it hadn't been done, right? And when we're in the meeting, say this Kevin Sullivan and Eric, and I'm like, all right, we're discussing it. And I'm like, how do you guys see this? And like Kevin's like, I see you having a hell of a match with her. And I'm thinking like, it's like, I know you're trying to put her over on TV. He's like, dude, but like, I know wrestling doesn't work. I go, but I'm 230 pounds and she's like 120. I go, what? It's like, I don't. I mean, other than me going in there like, breaking her neck, I go, I don't envision how you see a competitive match here. You know what I'm saying? Like, she goes, then they go, well, she beat up Chris Benoit. You know, like Eric's trying to tell me, she beat up Chris Benoit. And I said, go, okay, well, then shouldn't the match be against Chris Benoit? I was like, so there you go. So, okay, so what do you guys see me doing after this? And Eric's like, well, Kevin's like, he's like, well, I see you like disappearing for like 6 months, you know, stuff, everything. And Eric's like, no, I see like maybe like, you know, like somebody tries to egg you about it and you get mad about it, you know, something. And they're telling me this, and I'm like, okay, these guys haven't even thought about what they're doing with me after this, because neither of them are on the same page. And I've got 4 months left on my deal. So I'm thinking like, okay, they haven't talked about re-signing me. I got 4 months left and talking about me jobbing to a girl. And so I'm like, and so I'm just immediately thinking, okay, if I leave here, I'll go to New York. And I'm just thinking to myself, okay, what are the New York fans going to do if I come there? Oh, they're going to really give it to me up there for getting, you know, that's my, you know, like my last minute of WCW is going to be my girl. Now I'm going to New York, or even it's going to, like in their minds, I don't know how they think if it's going to cost me a job. So I leave the room, and I immediately called, you know, Paige and me were good friends. You know, me and Terry were good friends, and Terry was on the booking committee back then.
Right.
Okay, bro. Nobody, every single person I talked to, Paige, Terry Taylor, everybody said don't do it. They said don't do it. Like, I didn't talk to one person that said, hey, yeah, that's a good, go do that. You know what I'm saying? So they all tell me don't do it. And I said, so I went to Eric one day and I said, hey, can't do it. And he goes, okay, you're fired. I'm like, all right. So they got rid of me, right? And then and it was funny because they had said that it's fine. Can I go wrestle wherever I want to after this? You know, if you guys, and Eric said, yeah, our lawyer hit me with the no compete, the 4 month, their lawyer. Hit me with the no compete, even though Eric had said I could go do whatever I want, right? You know, so I'm stuck. So I'm stuck for 4 months doing nothing, and and that's when I was having conversation. Jim Cornette had called me up a couple times. Hey, what's your status? And they told me the exact same thing. I got my 4 month no compete. Now I got 3 months left. I got 2 months left. Then I called it. Then Bruce Pritchard called me. And he's like, what's your status? I go, well, it's the same as Ben. I said, previous talk to Cornette. He goes, so what was the story? He goes, well, I told Jim. He goes, well, I'd rather hear from the horses, you know, ahead than the horses. I'd rather hear from the horse's mouth than the horse. I'll never forget that. Bruce Pritchard's like, I'll never hear. It's talking about Cornette, like a guy where I'd rather hear from the horse's mouth than the horse's ass. That's the only real detail I remember that conversation. But I just told him, I said that I basically told the story kind of like how I told you, you know. He said, okay, so they didn't sign me, and it's like supposedly they somebody years later I found out maybe through Russo that he had said that I didn't give him the answers that he wanted to hear or something like that. But Russo thought that I was coming in because they were putting a silhouette of me in their magazine, like coming soon, like the Honky Tonk Man's protege or some weird thing, right? So out of all this, like they didn't sign me, and I saw Sting in the gym. And Sting was like, why did they get rid of you? Know, he didn't know the story of why they had gotten rid of me. And I repeated the story again to Sting. And Sting said, let me see what I can do. Sting went and talked to Eric. They brought me back. And I'll never forget Eric. He brought me back the first day. And it was like, we got to figure out a way for you to get put over Jacqueline. I was like, all right. So the funny thing was this: they cared so less about the mid-card back then. Is that okay? I'm like, okay. So like we're sliding on the card. When am I going to put her over? You know, I'm not just going to immediately get, because I'm coming back. We got to get into the angles, whatever. So you know what Terry did? Terry put the TV title on me, thinking that, okay, there's no way that Eric could be dumb enough to let the TV champion be my girl, right? And like, bro, to get the bookers like working Eric to try. That's how, like, this was WCW back then. Like, just no real like set plan. People on the same page or something. So they put the title on me, hopefully thinking that I wouldn't have to put over Jacqueline now, right? And so they kept doing it. But eventually, so here was the thing. So they finally started getting the angle with Jacqueline, and Eric comes to me and says, okay, so here's the deal. It's like, everything we've known, when you grow up, we're not supposed to hit a girl, but you have this girl's coming after you, and you've been backed into a corner, and what do you do? And I was like, why didn't you guys just tell me this beforehand? It's like I could work a match around where, okay, I'm not going to abuse a girl, But if she's out there kicking my ass, what can I do? I'm not going to punch her in the face. How do I negotiate a match around a girl when you've been told all your life you can't beat up a girl? You know what I'm saying? But she's trying to kill you. You know what I'm saying? So let's say, okay, I can work with that story. You know, not just like, okay, go and have a hell of a match with her. I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, okay, because my hell of a match is like, I'm beating up a girl, you know what I'm saying? I'm beating my opponent. So it actually, and we pulled it off. It actually I was surprised. I'll tell you what, she clotheslined me harder than I've ever been clotheslined by any guy in the business ever. She hit me with a clothes. I was like, holy shit. I mean, you know, I haven't gotten concussions, but not that like what we know about concussions today, but she, they come to think of it, she rang my bell. You know, so when she closed on me, I was like, "Holy shit!" It's like it woke me up. You know, I was like, "Jesus." So, but I ended up doing the job for her. So, and then all of a sudden after that, then China started coming. Then it was like okay to like just integrate, you know, guys working with girls and stuff. So,
the saddest part about all of that is you would have been the perfect protege for Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because it didn't go well with Billy Gunn, obviously.
Yeah, I would have been working with the Honky Tonk Man, who basically, that's who I studied when I was developing how am I going to do the disco character. You know, the Honky Tonk Man goes out there and does this, and does a couple moves. Like, oh, I'll just do like the same theory, and I'll just go out there and do my dance moves. You know, instead like when the Honky Tonk does it, I used to study the Honky Tonk like when he'd do it in the match. You know, so it would have been a pretty good. That would have been an entertaining like little deal there, right there.
Plus, you had Cornette and Russo on your side.
Yeah, well, that had Russo on my side. Cornette, I don't know. Cornette was just Russo was the writer. Cornette was office.
Okay.
You know, yeah, so him and Bruce were talent relations, assistant talent relations back then, or whatever it was. You know, I never spoke with Russo before he came to WCW.
So I guess it would have been ultimately Bruce's fault that that never happened.
Maybe, but I don't. Like I said, I don't remember the exact details of that conversation. But I was surprised. I'm like, well, why would these guys not want this character?
Yeah.
You know, that seems weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Or do something similar to that. I just don't. I thought it was built. I thought I was a WWE character in the WCW.
And I remember that magazine too. It's surprising that they did that.
Yeah. It's weird, right? It's like I was like, what happened? You know?
Yeah.
But then they got to the point where my no compete was up. And I was thinking of pursuing that even more, still trying to get into WWE, but that's when I met Sting, and Sting said, "We'll get your job back," and I needed work, you know, back then.
And you had a little feud with Saturn. What was he like?
Great,
Yeah.
Loved working with him. It's funny too because it was a good dynamic because he was like a tattooed thug, you know, type character, and I was like this pretty boy, you know, stuff everything. But we it was funny too because I'll never forget I very rarely, I can probably count on 3 fingers the amount of times that when I was working on TV that I just flat out forgot a spot. You know, where you just draw and I did it in a match against Perry, right? Where I just did a thing where it was like tackle, drop, and I like drop down. I have no clue what I'm doing next, and I'm just kind of like running aimlessly back and forth. And Perry stopped me and threw him up against the ropes and did these kicks that looked like because I screwed up the spot, as a shoot, he was kicking me in the face. And when we got back from the match, Terry Taylor started yelling at Perry for shooting on me out there. I was like, Terry, those kicks were work. You know, he's not. I'm fine. You know, so we came and that was the thing because it's just Perry's stuff looked believable.
Yeah.
You know, so we would work good together because he looked like he was roughing me up out there. You know, and I like selling. So I always liked working him because it was very easy to go over matches with him. We always had good matches. We worked a lot on house shows. It was always so some of my better stuff was with him.
What do you think about, I guess, the mental issues he's suffering from these days?
I can't, bro. I'm telling you. Here's the thing: is I got my bell rung a couple times. Didn't have any symptoms from it. Always worked safe. Maybe 2-3 years ago, I got my first where I know I got a concussion, like in a match where I was working against this guy. He kicked me in the head. When I got kicked in the head, I immediately had a black. This is after like we know about CTE and stuff and everything, you know. Kicked in the head, had a black flash, and had a lump on my head from getting kicked in the head. But after the match, I just had this lump on my head. I didn't have like a headache or nothing, you know. I just put ice on it and stuff and everything, just like a little bump. And and I'm not feeling any symptoms, no nausea, no nothing. You know, everything's fine, no headache. I go home, I get to my house, and I can't remember the security code to get back in my house. And that's like the symptom, I guess, of like, so I know I had a concussion because I know the code to get my house. I lived here for 2 years, you know. Yeah. But I never had any experience like that when I was in when I'd been wrestling WCW. I had a couple times maybe like I got my bell rung, but never had any like forgetfulness, nothing. So I can't speak on what guys go through that have gotten concussions that don't tell anybody, that didn't, you know, and like the mental issues that come from, because I know for a fact I just never really got hardly any concussions. Right. Never felt nauseous, never had headaches, never experienced any of that. You know, but I know guys that did. I knew guys that like back then, in retrospect, you knew guys were probably concussed and like they shouldn't be working, but like back then it was like, okay, if you don't work, you're not tough. You know, getting your bell rung is like, hey, everybody gets their bell rung. But I didn't really have my bell rung a lot. You know, maybe a couple times. So one with Jackie, and I think they come to think of it, I think I maybe got my bell rung on a Goldberg spear one time, because I was watching one of the matches I had against him, and he flattened me like pretty hard. I think, and I took a really hard bump, and I think I hit my head because he picks me up for the jackhammer, and I'm just like, you know how like when you got for a suplex and you post up on the guy, I'm kind of like just dangling there. Like he can't. He's like trying to hold me. I'm not posting him or nothing or anything. He's having trouble with me. You know. And he finally got me. And I was thinking like maybe I got my bell rung there too. You know. Yeah. So it's a big. But I'm just, you know, like concussions where you're just days and I haven't never had them. So I feel bad for Perry because I'm sure he probably, you know, because he worked a lot rougher and plus, you know, I can count on 5 fingers in my entire career that anybody ever hit me in the head with a chair. And I always put my hands up. I was not one of those guys. I'm not letting you, like the ECW back then. Yeah. Guys would clobber each other's hairs, and like if you put your hands up, you weren't tough. Yeah. So I can't even imagine, like maybe the issues that these guys are having from repeatedly concussing themselves, even probably when they're suffering from previous concussions, or just all these guys hit each other over the head with chairs, and what that can cause later in life. Yeah. I don't know. So whatever Perry's going through, you know, I know it's probably. I hear guys get depressed and stuff, but I can't speak on that because I've never suffered those. I have no clue what they're experiencing. You know what I'm saying?
And you mentioned that thing with Goldberg. How did he treat you as like undercard talent when he was? Oh no, I knew Bill from. We went to Georgia together. Okay. I knew him before. When I saw him at WCW, I was like, "You're coming here?" It's like, "Wow, that's great." Because it was funny too, because we my apartment that I lived in was literally like right next door to a bar that Bill worked at, and the entry of the bar, they had these stairs going up, and Bill would be the guy that would check IDs, you know, like he was the bouncer at the bar, and he always had a sleeveless Dallas Cowboys t-shirt on, had the Dallas Cowboys star white, and he just recognized, he had a mullet too, he's a big guy, yeah. And when the bar would be open and then Bill was working there, you could literally like look out my window and look and see Goldberg checking IDs at the bar next door, right? So when I went to Georgia, a bunch of my high school friends were there too, and they were our high school baseball team was I didn't play baseball, but we were 3-year state champions and like broke a record for the most home runs. But none of these guys a lot of these guys didn't go out and play college ball. Just maybe like 1 or 2 of them. So, but all these guys, we played intramurals at Georgia, and we had kind of got the team together, right? So our team and Bill's team, he had all the football players, right? So there are 2 intramurals softball teams, and then the school paper they would rank the teams. Our teams were ranked number 1 and number 2, right? And there was an inevitable showdown that we were going to be going. So we would always come and like talk trash, like, hey, when we play, let's play for a keg, you know. So like, you know, and it's funny too because both of our teams lost in the semifinals, and Bill's team lost because Bill made an error because he thought there were 3 outs, and he caught the ball and like threw it down the ground and they lost the game because one of the teams came on the field because Bill's error. It was a fraternity, right? So I got the details are sketchy on this, but from what I remember, okay, is that they think the what you call it, like the school had put on like the fraternity had put on like a big poster outside. It said Goldberg's equation: 1 + 1 = 2, or 1 + 1 = 3. Like making fun of him.
Yeah.
You know, and I heard that like the football players want to go over there and fight him and stuff. You know, like, that's like how me and Bill like knew each other before. We would trash talk each other like intramurals and stuff and all that. And then when he came into WC, he played football. You know, he was great. I mean, he was an unbelievable. Like, if you ever watched Bill Goldberg play college football, he was one of the best players in the country. And I was like, and I'll never forget one play that he made. When I was at a game, he got his bell rung, and he was like completely dazed. Like you see him shaking off. You know, like I'll never forget. I didn't even spoke to him about this, but he like shaking off. Like you could tell he was like out of it. You know. And like he wasn't coming out of the game. This is back in the late '80s, early '90s. You know, like nobody knew about concussions and concussion protocol back then and stuff. And he got down his 4-point stance and they hiked the ball and he just shot right through. Like I got the guy for like a 3-yard loss, and then got up and kind of like still dazed went off the field.
Right.
And I was like, wow, that's like, you know, did you see that? Like at the game, like, did you see what Goldberg just did? So that's how tough he was. You know, and so when he went to play pro football, I didn't think he just showed up at TV one day with Luger. I was like, all right, you think you're doing this? I was like, he's like, yeah, I'm thinking of doing this. You know, and stuff. He didn't love wrestling. He loved football. You know, he was a football player. That just he was just good at getting a pop in wrestling. He was just good at, you know, that crowd when it was just different. Whenever Goldberg would come out to wrestle, just that arena just was different. It was like, wow, this guy's coming out Goldberg's coming out to kill somebody. You know, it wasn't like, you know, wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, and but we were always cool. But just one day, I was always cool with him. You know, never an issue. But I didn't really hang out with him at the shows or nothing. But I just remember one day when he was they were in the meeting where they had to bring in Brad Siegel and he was meeting with Russo and stuff and those guys. They wanted him to do a job at Scott Steiner. And I remember I opened the door and he was so pissed from like, I guess he was arguing with these guys. He was like, shut the goddamn door. And I was like, Jesus. Like he never talked to me like that before.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, wow, he must be hot. You know, so yeah. But I was a huge fan of his. You know, and it just plus each time we worked him, we always had good. We did good stuff with it. We put him over big. You know, and it was. I'll never forget when Johnny Ace took over. When Johnny Ace was doing the finishes and he came in and he was like doing all the Goldberg's finishes and matches and stuff. And I remember like he wanted to do a handicap match against me and Alex, who were over in England. And like Johnny Ace said, set it up, and I didn't like it. It was just a squash. But I'm like, dude, this can be more entertaining if we do it logically, you know, instead of just a straight, you know. And like, you know, we did a deal where like, if you watch this, it's really entertaining. It says before he gets in the ring, and so we kind of jump out of the ring. You know, we're scared of him. And we're kind of circling, trying to sneak up on him. You know, and we do a thing where like, you know, one of us distracts, the other one slides in. You know, boom, boom, and like I attack him, he hits me, but Alex now is climbed up on the top rope, and Johnny wanted Alex to missile drop kick him off the top rope, but didn't want Bill to take a bump. And I'm like, come on, Johnny. I go, this kid's 240 pounds. I go, let's do it for a shoot. You know, he's gonna knock him down. Big deal. So he don't have to kill him. I go, all you're doing is knocking a guy down, but we're doing a missile drop kick off the top rope. Yeah. So he knocks him down, and we kind of like boom, 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 get a little heat on him. And we do a spot where we shoot him because it's double spears, double jackhammer, but it was just real exciting, right? And when we came back afterwards, Bill was like, "Yeah, he goes that worked." He goes, "That was right. You know, that was good. I like that. You know." And Johnny Ace even came over and said that he goes, "Your way was better." And I was like, you know, I go, "Yeah, we're putting him over, but it's like he shouldn't. Like he just can't go out there and kill everybody without ever like, you know." Like anybody ever, you know what I'm saying? There's no depth to a guy just slaughtering everybody anytime, you know? Like the people pop when Mike Tyson would kill people, but the people pop bigger when Mike Tyson got beat, you know? Or he showed you know, chinks in his armor, you know? Yeah. So.
At what point did you become friends with Conan back there?
Just organically, kind of right away, maybe a little bit, because we kind of like we all had similar interests, and we kind of like started maybe we were hanging out before this, but when Nash and Hall came in, we kind of like Nash and Hall, like we were all, you could tell like Nash didn't like a lot of the he didn't like the older guys. He liked the younger guys, you know, and we were like he liked the younger guy vibe, and I kind of like me and Conan and Ray and Kim and everything, you know, we kind of like we thought Nash was cool. We started hanging out with, you know, Nash, but me and Conan and Ray, we were all Raven and all of us. We all just kind of like just had similar interests. It doesn't really like it's just weird. You just I can't really pinpoint a time when it started, but I just noticed that all of us were hanging out, you know. And then we started driving. I would always drive the Mexican guys. I would drive like him and Hoovy and Ray and me. And it was like, oh yeah, it was just like it's just so funny too, because like, you know, they're always late, and it would be a joke. Like when I'd want to leave, I'd always like say like, hey, I give them like, hey, let's if we want to leave at like 8:30 in the morning, hey, meet me there at 8:15. All right, they wouldn't show up, you know. so then it'd be 8:30, 8 o'clock. And meet at 8, you know. They wouldn't still, you know. 8 still late, you know, even late past 8:30. I had like tell like 45 minutes an hour before I wanted to meet.
Yeah.
Tell them that to get them there to show up at the time that I wanted to meet. But we just we did a lot of miles together on the road and stuff, like driving. They were cool. I always used to like the Mexican gang, you know, clique.
Did you see any of Hoovy's incidents that took place later?
Oh yeah, I was right there when he was naked in Australia. That was freaking. That was weird, man. It was like you gotta picture the scene. There was everybody's out the night before, and I'd like gone out and like they went somewhere else. I don't know what happened. Like because back then we'd meet people. Hey, let's go to this club deal. I'll take you guys to this other club, and some guys would just go. You know, like there'd be girls, you know, and stuff. Hey, we're going with these girls to this other club, and they had like gone out. I think I'd stayed in, maybe I went out, got in early, right? I'll just never forget this. It's a Marriott, and picture like if there's a Marriott, and on the end of the Marriott is a Marriott restaurant, but it's like a big windows everywhere to outside. You know, it's like glass everywhere. It's like it's one of those things where you see the outside where you're sitting in the restaurant. I'll never forget. There's a bunch of old ladies like in flowery dresses eating breakfast in the morning and everything, and there's Hoovy outside. He's like arguing with Conan and Ray over something. Like, what the frick is going on? And they're arguing, and Hoovy just takes his clothes off, and he's just screaming at the top of his lungs. And he's like, you know, and they're like, it's Hoovy. They settle. He's like freaking out, and I guess like he had like been with some like some guys in the club, and they were smoking angel dust or something. He didn't know it, and like, you know, he was all messed up. And I'll never forget this. Is that the cop showed up. The cop showed up obviously because there's a naked guy screaming at the top of his lungs, freaking out, and there was like 5 of them. Okay, and like when they tried to subdue him. It was like I've never seen anything like this. It's like he had like superhuman strength because Hoovy's not a big guy, you know.
Right.
And they tried to grab him, and he was like slinging people off, and so like they were on top of like they couldn't. He's a little guy. Yeah. Every single person trying to get him was like decent sized guys. They couldn't, and like finally one of the guys came and like had to like tackle the whole pile to get him on the ground. And he's a small guy. You literally had like they had him pinned down to the ground, with his face on the cement, like with the like literally like 4 to 5 guys holding him down, and it looked like if I'm holding one arm, yeah. All right, I'm just one guy holding one arm. I'm struggling holding one arm. Like they could not keep him down. He was like fighting. Like I was like, how is? It looked like a superhero scene. Like where's he getting the strength from? Yeah. You know, and they finally, like, he was screaming at the top of his lungs the whole time, this in Spanish. You know, I couldn't understand a word he was saying, but and everybody was like, just man, I forget who was out there. Conan and Ray were out there, and they were like, shh, this is bad. You know, like, I'm like, what the frick is going on here? You know, it was the weirdest scene. I've never seen anything like it. And they put him in they got him finally in the paddy wagon. It took forever, but he was like he would not, like, little Hoovy naked.
Yeah.
And they're trying to pick. Yeah, it was just a weird. Oh my god, bro! Let me tell you something. That would have been the most. That would have gotten 30 million views today. They would have seen it. Yeah, but back then, yeah. Oh, if cell phones were around back then, forget it. We actually probably would have like let up a lot more than we did. But we used to get too wild back then. You know.
Did you ever see any of Flair's antics? Anything like this?
No. You know, I always heard Flair would just buy people drinks in the bar a lot. I saw that, you know, but I wouldn't see him like, you know, whipping his dick out or anything. I never saw that. Yeah. You know, so I'd heard it happened. You know, but I did like we were there because the Flair would stay at the bar, you know, at the hotel bar. We'd always go out. So and then it happened like, you know, but me and him were always cool. So, but yeah, I never firsthand visualize anything other than Flair buying drinks for everybody in the bar.
And you had some matches with Buff Bagwell.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that, and why is he so disliked?
Because he's got my matches with him were always fine. You know, we always worked good together because we were friendly with each other. He's easily top 3. If you want to drive with somebody and have somebody tell you some fantastic, like he's a great storyteller. Like the way he tells stories, he's an incredible storyteller. Like stories of his life, stories of upbringing, stories where he shot his dad, you know, stuff like all these stories. It's just, I mean, it's like, wow, this guy really had a really incredible, strange upbringing. You know what I'm saying? And so I loved driving with him because he would always just tell stories the whole time, you know. But and we always had good matches because we were always friends. We drive, we're friendly, you know. We take care of each other. But he admits that he's an A1 personality. Hey, it's me first, you know? And if you know that, you're entertained by it. Because like you see a guy kind of living a gimmick of like kind of like the like Lex and him were identical. They're both narcissists on TV, and they're both, whether they're for shooting narcissists in real life, they're working it all the time around everybody, even the boys. And a lot of the guys rub them the wrong way, but you know this, but like you're entertained by it because they're so over the top. You know, it's just like it'd be funny. Like Buff would we'd be going out that night, and Buff would call me to his room. All right, I go down his room. He goes, "You see this?" I go in. He'd have his outfit laid out on the bed. He goes, "You see what I'm doing here?" He goes, "This is what I'm wearing tonight." I put it out, and I have it ready, and like just see what it looks like, and I envision myself. That's you do funny stuff like that, you know. Him and Luger, we go to their hotel room. You know, they'd stay together sometimes, and like 2 or 3 of us would go there before we go out. They'd have a 12-pack of beer. They're drinking beer, and the freezer door is open. And I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" It's like, "Oh, we always stand next to the freezer because this is how we stay cool before we go out." You know, like the refrigerator freezer door open. They just like be standing there next to it, drinking beer with the cool air. They're very peculiar. Like I said, guys, that would rub people the wrong way. But like I'm just entertained by watching how these guys act. You know, they were 2 of my favorite guys because if they liked you, they would do stuff like this with you. You know, stuff. If they didn't like you, they would just shut you out. They would ignore it. If they ignored you, they don't care to, you know, they don't want anything to do with you. They don't like you. Yeah. But if they were like, if they would play their gimmick around you, they liked you because you knew you'd entertain them. By letting them entertain you. You know what I'm saying? So I was always cool with him.
Is the gigolo thing a work with him, or
I don't know. I've never. It's been a while since I talked to him. You know, his wife was my old roommate's roommate before like his wife was my ex-roommate's roommate before I was my ex-roommate's roommate, and so I knew her. She was from the gym and stuff and all that. So. If he's a gigolo, like as a shoot, I don't know. These days, you don't know what's a work and what's a shoot. You know, so I guess he's on the website. Yeah. Cowboys and like you could but that show, I know that show is kind of like a half work, half shoot.
Yeah. Because
it's in Vegas, and I know some of the they came to our club one time, and it's kind of like they're kind of working. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know what is a reality show these days? Yeah. It's a show that's reality TV, but reality TV is really we're working the reality, you know. So, but I don't know. I've not talked to him about it, and I've never, you know, I don't know anybody that's actually procured his services, or so you just hear about it, and you're like, I can see him doing that, you know. So that's 100%, yeah.
You don't hear about him wrestling too much these days, so that's why I wonder.
Maybe, I mean, like, you know, that's funny though.
And you had some matches with Scott Hall. What was he like?
Oh, he's great. He basically got me paid in WCW. He got me paid. He would you gotta understand, like back in WCW, back then, you've heard the stories. Just the inmates ran the asylum.
Yeah.
They would give Scott something to do that night, and Scott used to like to use Louis Piccoli. Okay, it's like because Scott was smart, because Scott didn't want to take all the bumps. He would have a guy, the guy that kind of knew what he was doing to take the bumps, you know.
Yeah.
So Scott would had this like Louis Piccoli. So when Louis Piccoli, you know, like when he passed, they would give Scott stuff to do on TV. He would come to me. Like, I'll never forget, he just came to me. He said, hey, you want to do this spot with me tonight? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he goes, so he'd go back to the office. He goes, hey, I'm doing this. The Disco's going to do this with me. That's how much stroke these guys had.
Yeah.
They never, when I was doing my whole thing with the NWO, what I was doing with Scott and stuff and everything, they never really started. Like, it took like 5 to 6 weeks before they actually included me in like the thing that Scott was doing.
Right.
Scott would get what he was doing and just say, come to me and say, hey, I'm gonna use you, and I'm gonna go tell him. It's like, so Scott was booking me into his angles with him.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's how it all started. Of me like integrating myself in the NWO, because I was Scott's, like, you know, Scott. I was like Scott's Louis Piccoli guy. I would go out there and like just do the spots and be out there with him and stuff and all that. And I'll never forget, because like during this time is the time my contract negotiations coming around, you know, and it's like I was going to ask for a certain amount of money, but now I'm getting them. And the NWO, I'm like, I'm on TV with Scott Hall. We're beating Goldberg for the first time, and I'm part of the match. You know, like where Goldberg's getting me, and I'm like, I went and asked for way more money.
Yeah.
And they gave it to me. You know, so it's like, you know, and that's all because Scott Hall was just like booking me, and I'm becoming a more prominent character on TV because of him specifically. Was doing that for me, because he knew I had a good mind for the business. And I'll never forget, like when it got to the point where there was a big schmaz, Flair, the Four Horsemen, Hogan, Macho, Hall, Nash, and me, right? And we're in the thing, the booking, the meeting there. There's probably 10 of us, right? And they're trying to lay this spot out, and none of the guys could figure out what to do. And I just saw, you know, like when they're trying to, and you just see it in your mind, like, oh, well, let's just do this. You know what I'm saying? And I just raised my hand and went like, you know, just laid it out. And like Hogan was like, I like that. Let's do that. And I was like, okay, cool. And then when we got out of the meeting, it's like, see, you know, Kevin and Scott were kind of leaving me like, hey, good job, you know, because now these guys look at me like, I you know, I'm not just some guy, some schmuck the Scott's using out there. Like, hey, I actually can, you know, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. A lot of the mid-card guys never really got to integrate with that. You know, all the top guy stuff and everything. So, but that was but yeah, Scott, I don't know why he did it, but just one day at TV, hey, you want to do this? I got an idea for you to do this spot. And it's funny, they're like, I wouldn't be on the sheet. I wouldn't even match. I thought I'd be going home and go, hey, Scott would be like, hey, come here, let's do this. I'm gonna use you. Let's go tell them. So, like,
Imagine AJ Styles doing that today with somebody.
Oh, forget, yeah. It's like it's so, but back then that's how it was. Guys would just do what they wanted. You know, they're like, okay, go ahead, because they're doing good business. You know, it's like.
Yeah. Did you have much interaction with Hulk Hogan back there?
No. I was not. The thing was, I wasn't. I've grown to appreciate him more as I've gotten older, but I was not a fan of Hulk when I was in WCW, because this was just this is my opinion, okay, and this is why I didn't like what he stood for, in that he always used to talk about the team. You know what I'm saying? Like, we gotta make sure this guy's on the team. You know, this guy's got a team. He always talked about the team, but like he had his own locker room and stuff and everything and all that.
Yeah.
And that just rubbed me the wrong. It just rubbed personally. I didn't like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're talking about the team, like, well, you know, Hall and Nash are in the locker room with the boys. You know, but like all these guys talking about team, like, well, if we're a team, why you guys have your own locker rooms? That's not a. That was really the only issue I had, like, with Hulk, with that. Like, I didn't like him using the team concept when you basically are just got your own. You're off on your own. You're above everybody. You know what I mean? I didn't like that. But I've gotten like one thing about him that I've grown to appreciate is that, and like seeing the way some of the people have kind of turned on him later in life, is that he was very loyal to people that were close to him. You know, he got people that were friends. You know, his friends. He would go to bat for them and get them work.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know. I mean, like, so I'm like, what are you gonna do? Like, how if you're an outsider looking at that, you're kind of like, oh, well, he's just, you know. But if you're part of that, I wish I would have had more. You know, I don't know. If I was that rich and I had that much stroke, I would probably take care of guys like Hogan did too that I liked.
Yeah.
You know, went and said, hey, dude, pay this guy. You know, pay him. Let's keep him. Let's keep. You know what I'm saying? I would probably do that too, and I think that's a quality that people probably like of Hogan probably criticized for a long time. That if you really step back and looked at it, you were in his shoes, you admire that.
Yeah.
You know, then that's the way I look at Hulk Hogan today, especially the way he's been demonized over the years. You know, and I'm like, wow, he's he really took a beating, you know, with when his son got in trouble. And like he would defend his son, and I'm like, bro, the guy's defending his son. It's like, you know what I mean? What would you expect of a dad to do? I mean, this is crazy that we're trying to like bury Hulk Hogan for thing. But what are you gonna disown your kid?
Yeah.
You know, that's what kind of father is that? You know, and I grew to appreciate like the way he carried himself in that. You know.
And what were your overall feelings of Eric Bischoff?
He was kind of a condescending guy, but I could see like he was very when I first started there and I was first starting coming to like production meetings, I could tell that he was he was frustrated. Like he'd been a product of a guy that was frustrated with the production process there. Like his vision was you know what I'm saying, like his vision was not getting, like there was like a disconnect a little bit between him and like what the production could do. Right. You know, but he was kind of you know, he's a boss. You know, people either love the boss, hate the boss, and you know, or there's mixed. You love him, you hate him, or you're in the middle and stuff and all that. And you know, he fired me, but I can see where like if I was in his shoes, I probably would have done the same thing. If that's what I have to do. If I tell a talent to do something, they say no. What am I supposed to do? You know. Yeah. But I think he was a product of the last guy. Here's the reason I think that a lot of the problems had at WCW is the last guy that would get his ear. That's what would get on TV, and that's why a lot of the plans would change all the way up to like 10 minutes before the show starts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think like, the thing is I think that you know, Eric's not. He wasn't like the most creative. He was a big picture creative guy. Like it's not a big thing, but like details and stuff and everything. I don't, you know, I don't think he cared a lot about a lot of stuff. But I've heard Vince McMahon's the same way. You know, when the Attitude Era was going, you know, all Vince wanted to know is, well, what's Austin doing tonight? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think Eric kind of think, well, what's Hogan doing tonight? What's the NWO doing tonight? You know, and he's kind of the same way. But I mean, he's a smart guy. You know, he's very intelligent.
Just for all the money he made off of WCW.
But I'm saying he knows, like, when you speak with him, like, and you hear his podcast today and stuff. He's just very, very, very smart. Like you could tell he's got a high IQ.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? But like he's not the best people person. You know, he's a little bit. He's probably unintentionally condescending at times to people. You know, but that's just probably just the way his personality is. But I have no problems with the guy, you know. So.
How did you feel when Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara were brought over?
Well, we thought that they were going to turn things, help the midcard guys, which is what they did.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they came in and immediately they just like, if you're on the card, we're trying to put you in a storyline, no matter who you are. If you're on the show or if you're part of the roster, we got to give you a storyline. And it was just different because, like, you know, WCW, we weren't shooting backstage back then before they came in. So now we had to produce stuff backstage because that's the way they did it in New York. You know what I'm saying? So it just changed the whole culture of how shows are written today, and that's how they are written today. You know, the camera's just there, and we just shoot like with the suspension of disbelief, knowing that the camera's there. We just Ed was funny. So me and Conan and Ed and stuff, we hit it off, immediately. Russo, I sat next to him on a plane one time, and we just started picking each other's brains for like a 2-hour trip. And a couple weeks later, they asked me to sit in booking meetings. So we
was he in coach?
Huh?
Was he in coach?
Yeah, he was in coach. Yeah, they had to play. Yeah, we were the. I'll never forget. We were the first seat behind first class, sitting right there, and it was I think he was like a standby or something, and he came and said there was one empty seat right next to me, and he sat next to me.
Okay.
And we just started picking. We just picked our brains for like 2 hours. We had identical views on the business. That like this show is 2 hours of TV. And you can do whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? It's not, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself into wrestling. You can just do whatever you want for 2 hours of television. There's no rule book.
Yeah.
So we thought the same way, and so the next thing you know, he's asked me to sit on booking meetings. So.
And how did you like that?
This is fun. It's me, Ed, Terry, Taylor, Borash would sit in, Bill Banks sometimes would sit in, but and Vince, and it was just funny because they were fun sometimes. When you get writer's block, it's not fun. There were periods of time where you just be like literally just sitting there for everybody's just in silence. Can't really think of nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just sitting there, and I was funny too because like I was comedic. Like I'll never forget this one time. It's like I've told this story a million times, but like I'll tell it again. We're sitting there for like 2 straight minutes, just nobody's thinking of anything, and I'm like, how about this? Let's shoot a shot of an empty locker room for 30 seconds, and at the end, coming soon, the Invisible Man. And bro, everybody just popped, and like we'd laugh, and like everybody crack up, and then we just start throwing weird stuff out there. You just start start talking about weird, and then you just start get back in start getting back into booking the show. It's just like I was an outside the box thinker. I'd always come, and I wouldn't necessarily want these on the show, but I would just think crazy stuff like funny stuff just to pop the room. Because once you start laughing, you just start thinking differently. You just start thinking comedy, and then like you start thinking comedy, then you start thinking funny stuff you can do. Then you turn that into serious stuff. It just sparks your intelligence. Sparks your creative thought.
Were you paid extra for that?
Nah.
No.
But no. Well, sort of. They started giving my when we travel. Because here's the thing: I come home from the road, and it was right around the corner from my house. We'd meet at a hotel in a conference room, and the meeting would take like 6-7 hours, right? And they'd feed us and stuff. But I was getting my they started paying for my cars and rooms on the road. Okay, so theoretically that adds up. You know what I'm saying? Like they're paying me to go to a booking meeting for 6 hours, and I'm getting the equivalent of maybe like I don't know, maybe $1,200 to $1,500 worth of extra stuff every week that I would be paying for, or so that was like I guess I did make more, because now I was getting office amenities and stuff. So.
Did you get any heat backstage from jealous wrestlers?
No, not heat. The only time I got heat was when, like, one of the guys Chavo didn't like an angle one time and started yelling at me in front of everybody, and but he came and apologized to me afterwards. But no, they liked it because they knew I was going to bat for the midcard guys. Like I was talking, I would be with the guys. Like, hey, I'm gonna ask if I can do this with you, and I'd throw stuff out there, try and because they were my friends, people. Well, not my friends; they were kind of like my peers. Yeah. Like they're all mid-card guys, and I know they're not doing nothing with you. Hey, hey, I would, tell Vince, try this with this guy.
Yeah.
Try this with this guy. Let this guy do this. This guy's entertaining. Or give Ernest Miller the mic. You know what I'm saying? This guy can talk. He can run his mouth. Just give him the mic and let him go. And they start doing it, and just stuff like that. So nobody really. If I had heat, nobody ever came and told me, hey, you got a lot of heat for doing this.
Right.
Because I wasn't booking myself in anything spectacular. So I was just trying to help out. I was just trying to I was a buffer in between like mid-card guys that they really didn't know anything about because they'd never interacted with these people and like Vince and Ed. So.
Now, one last guy I'll ask you about from WCW is a controversial guy that I guess would have been one of the mid-card guys you might have helped, and that's Bill DeMott, who was general erection.
Yeah.
What was he like, and what do you think of all the controversy that happened with him?
I mean, it's the stuff from the WWE.
Yeah.
Me and Bill got along great. Always have. Funny guy. Crack each other up. Oh, he was. His gimmick was a shoot. Laughing man. He had a great laugh.
Yeah.
And he was always funny. It was always easy to pop. But I don't know what they did there. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I got lucky when I got trained. I didn't get abused or nothing like that. Because I picked up stuff really fast, But I know there's a culture that exists in professional wrestling that you kind of got to be tough, and it's like, how do you teach toughness unless you expose people to uncomfortable situations? Sometimes, what I'm saying? Because that's all that toughens you up is when you're exposed to something that you don't know how to it causes you to react a certain way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it makes you angry, makes you uncomfortable, makes you, how do you take that? So I've always thought that, like, I've never been kind of abusive, but I've seen, like, trainers, I've seen YouTube clips of, like, how the Japanese train them and stuff, and they train their guys, like, they're abusing, and I'm like, hey, it's like, this, to do this business, we're stressing our bodies, and there's never been a rule book written on how to show me a rule book, a universal rule book on how to train a professional wrestler. There's a million trainers out there and with varying degrees of experience. Basically it's just like people in the business are sharing their knowledge of what they think works with people and trying to teach them the way maybe they've been taught.
Yeah.
So I was just like, if you think that you're being abused by the professional wrestling business, or you're abused in training, or being abused and your feelings are hurt, it's like try going out there like your back hurts, you can't get out of bed, you got to take a bunch of pills just to be able to make it to the ring to get through a night of work to get paid. Okay, how do you train somebody for that situation?
They have to love it.
They have to love it, but they have to be able to handle abuse of your body.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to be able to handle uncomfortable situations. You got to be able to handle being like you feel, you don't feel strong about yourself. You feel weak. So how do, like, if you're getting beat down verbally or whatever, how do you react? Do you suck it up or do you just, I can't believe he's treating me like this, or do you get depressed? Because the only similar situation you're going to have is when you're hurt and you have to work to get paid. How do you train people for that?
Right.
So anytime people criticize, the training of methods of people, I've always said, you just don't know, this business might not be for you, because this is the type of things you might have to deal with if you do this for a living. You know what I'm saying? Having to work when you're hurt to get paid, and it's like, if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to suffer, this might not be the business for you. And that's what I would say to people.
Now, you've already talked about what you did after WCW went out of business, but just to go into WCW actually going out of business, were you shocked, or did you see it coming, being part of the booking team?
No, we didn't, because Brad Siegel came in and told us, like, a couple months before we got sold, that we weren't getting sold. Just lied, had a whole meeting and lied right to our faces. So we never thought that was an option. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like I was at the point, and there was a part of my career too, where it's like, oh, this is cool. My next contract, I'm going to get a good bump, and I'm going to be able to get a nice house and everything. My next deal is going to be, I'm going to make $1 million. You know what I'm saying? And so that was like, wow, we are out of business. Holy cow! How'd that happen? I was envisioning this next year to be completely different than this. You know what I'm saying? So when it went out of business, I was like, man, I was just like, it hits you pretty hard, but I was still getting paid for, like, okay, I got 3 months to figure it out what I'm gonna do, but I'm getting paid a good chunk of change during that time. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like, you know what I'm saying, like I got I got chopped off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And you ended up after your contract expired and everything, going to TNA.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Jeff Jarrett that brought you in there, or Vince Russo? Or?
Jeff, Vince, they were, and that 2003 in TNA was the best work I ever did. Those shows were some of the best TV that never got seen because they were weekly pay. You had to pay for it on every week, so not a lot of people watched it.
Yeah.
But if you look at that library of shows for like from 2003 to 2000, mid 2004, those were great shows. We were running the same building every week, right? And there was times where we're like, wow, this is good. This is really good stuff. The houses, even though it's a local market, there's a lot of people. Like the house is growing every week. We're packed every week now. There's people. There's a line outside. They're turning away people at the door, and just the shows were very strong. They were like, we had a lot of. It was one of those periods of time where you had a young AJ Styles, a young Chris Daniels, a young Chris Sabin, like all these young guys that are great, that were just now getting exposed to people. And like, wow, these guys are really, really good. You're watching them like, holy cow. The work was great. The interviews were fantastic. I mean, like every guy in the card just nailed it on the mic. Like each night, it was just good stuff, man. I really enjoyed. That was the funnest time I had. Is 2003 in TNA, because it was just like it was just good stuff, man. I mean, if you ever get a chance to watch it, be like, wow, these are like really good shows, So.
Who do you think owns that footage now? It's still TNA.
It's at the TNA. It's on this. You can get it on that app.
Okay.
All those shows are on that Global Wrestling app, whatever it's called, that Impact app or something. Like all those archive shows are on there. And those are. I was just telling like New Jack used to come and do great interviews. So I mean, like Shane Douglas, Sandman.
Vince Russo say the same thing, that those were the best.
Oh, they were just. I mean, if you just watch, it was we were doing outside the box stuff. I was cutting good promos. Everybody was. I mean, it was just like wow. It's like wow. If you watch those shows, you're like, what happened to because it wasn't scripted back then. Vince would write interviews, but he'd write them very basic and like elementary, and you put your words in and fit. You edit it in your voice any way you want. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like so you just got guys everybody was giving good direction, and they would go rolling with it. And the angles were good. Everything was hot. It was just good stuff, man. I'd put that was as good TV as you will see, because everything made sense. It was outside the box, but we made it make sense and stuff. It was just good. Mike Tenay's announcing was fantastic. Like he would sell the angles. It was just great stuff.
Did you deal at all with Jerry Jarrett at the beginning?
Briefly, I didn't. I wasn't a fan of his. I wasn't a fan of his. He like had ideas for angles that I just thought were way too old school. Just would not get over, and stuff. And like I'd be like, I just don't think he could. I mean, the guy's probably brilliant back in the day, but like it's like not 1981 anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's not, and plus he made a comment about me. Like he had wondered. Like there was a period of time where they were trying to sign me or something. I didn't want to work there because I didn't want enough and stuff. And his thing was like, why would? Because he did Memphis television. Yeah. So he would have guys come work on TV for $20. Yeah. That's what they do. They put you on TV, and that's like your exposure, right?
Right.
And he didn't understand that. Like I don't understand why a guy would want to be on TV though. So, and I'm like. Jerry, I just spent 7 years on TV. It's like that's not about being on TV anymore. It's about your money. You know what I'm saying? So that's like where he his school of thought and my school of thought clashed. It's like I don't need to be on TV anymore. I was on TV for 7 years, every week. So so I don't need more TV exposure. I just want more money. Yeah. So that's.
What was the friction with him and Jeff over? Was that just Jerry getting out of the business?
I have no idea. I'll tell you what. Here's what I heard is that. All I know is Jeff. This was a very weird dynamic, right? And I don't know if it's true or not, but this was a story. I heard that for some reason, like Jerry Jarrett never held Jeff's kids in his arms, right? But Jeff confided in him, and like they would go be off in the corner meeting all the time, So there were confidence. Like I guess Jeff would always go to ask him, Jeff was a student of the game, which made Jeff so smart to the business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Jeff's as smart a cook as you will find in professional wrestling. You know what I'm saying? He's just smarter than everybody else. And I think what happened is the friction came on when Jerry Jarrett had that Russian character guy, and he like went to and he went to New York with him and I think this is just because this is still sketchy in my memory, but I think that rubbed Jeff the wrong way. It's like, well, it's kind of like you're backstabbing me here with this guy. Why are you taking him to New York? I'd heard that was a story that created a lot of friction with them. I never knew the story because he would never repeat his conversations that he had with his father. Never. I had no clue what they were talking about. That's the thing. People I have no clue what they're talking about.
I can tell you why I took him to New York though, because I knew Oleg because he didn't like wrestling and he got a better than average training contract.
Right.
So
is that what it was? Right.
He probably wouldn't have been willing to wrestle for a small amount of money.
Did you hear the similar story?
I didn't hear the story, but I just knew Oleg that he didn't really like wrestling. He was only in it for the money reasons.
Right. So. That's a sketch. But I don't know if it's.
I could see how that would cause friction.
Yeah. It's just, so that's too. It's like, and I don't know. I just don't know because I never really knew. I just knew Jeff confided in him, but I never knew what they talked about. He never shared those conversations or nothing.
And Dixie Carter, I have to ask you about her and your dealings with her, of course.
I liked her. I mean, she was always cool with me. I honestly think I think she's a lot smarter than people think. I think she made some mistakes. Okay, but big deal. What promoter hasn't made mistakes in whatever. She was, of course, was a mark, but I think that she smartened herself up a lot faster than people give her credit for. Because a lot of the stories I hear about Dixie are that, how dishonest she was in dealings and stuff and everything and all that. And I'm like, look, she had to know from the get-go that she was being worked by a lot of these guys and probably said to herself, all right, I'm just going to start working them back.
Yeah.
Because she's not dumb. She would have known that. Like, I can see that happening because she would have known that. You know what I'm saying? Because she would have known when she's not the boys, Jeff and they would try to work her. But you can't. When you assume somebody is dumber than they are, I think they see it, and I think they turn the tables, and just start doing it back, and and you just get that, and I think it just created that culture there, where maybe everybody thought they were working Dixie, but you know what? Dixie was kind of like working you guys back, you know what I'm saying? So and in retrospect, he kind of that to me is kind of like the vibe that I see that went on there, because she was not dumb. She's a smart girl, or smart woman. She's not a dumb cookie. She's smart.
And what do you think of the current Impact Wrestling regime and what they've done so far?
Well, they've done well so far. I mean, my understanding is the Fight TV people can't be, they're not WWE, but they can be, all right, everything other than WWE. And when you do that, it's kind of like what they're doing now, and I like what Don and DeMore are getting people to do. They're getting all these other companies just work with each other. Kind of like the Marvel Infinity Wars is coming out, and that's kind of like marrying all the universes, and everybody's all excited about that. Like, wow, they're kind of like doing the same thing with wrestling. Impact versus Lucha Underground. Impact versus AAA or whatever they do. That's kind of like a hot. That's what they're doing is they're identifying with pop culture today, and what's hot in pop culture is what you kind of go with. And I think that is a very intelligent business plan for them to use. Instead of sticking to the old school principles of professional wrestling. Yes. Like everybody, the wrestling's changed. Like I said, back in '92 when I broke in, I didn't know what the sheets were. I didn't know how they did it. I knew they talked on TV to each other, but I never knew what they're saying. I didn't know what the holds. I didn't know the moves. But today, in professional wrestling, everybody knows the work. Everybody knows the work. So it's a different business model. So if everybody knows the work, why can't you do things like that? You know what I'm saying?
And your little feud with Don Kallis, is that a work or is that
kind of a shoot? It's kind of half work, half shoot. I think as it started with I definitely don't hate the guy or nothing. You know what I'm saying? And I think it started where I kind of called him out on something he said in a show, and it took him off guard, and so it it created a thing where he kind of like had to like not to compromise himself. He kind of had to turn it into a shoot, and neither of us are relenting.
Right.
So it's like, you know, it's like, hey, I'm not. I know what happened, you know. So and he's like trying to. We're trying to tell a tale of two histories, and they're different, but one of us knows the truth, and the other one, both of us know the truth, but one of us is acting like it's not.
I see.
All right, so that's how it is.
And I saw a picture of you with Ted Hart and Chris Jericho recently, and I was wondering your opinion on those two.
Teddy Hart's my favorite guest on the podcast, because he tells the stories, and it's one sentence. It's like he could talk. The guy could talk for 3 hours, and it's like one sentence with like 10 different stories, and he's as entertaining as can be. You know, and me and Chris, you know, we hadn't connected in years. You know, on the podcast, I saw him at the show in Vegas, and you know, you reconnect with people you used to spend like years with. You know, and plus I introduced Chris to his wife years ago, so I'll always have that thing, like, you know, like with him, like a kind of like a. But I joke because he wrote it, you know. He wrote in his books, he called me a dweeb, and one of them said you could go find disco at the soup kitchen. But it's like, you know, I think it's funny, but I make it sound like, you know, like we can make a good storyline out of that. You know what I'm saying? So.
And for Ted, do you think that he'll ever get like another shot at like a maybe?
I don't know, man. He's an entertaining guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's a crazy in-ring character. He's got a lot of heat from guys, but I've never had an issue with the guy. I've always thought he was really entertaining. Will he get another chance? Probably not. But he'll get, you know, probably not WWE, but he can definitely work. He's got a fan base, and he's this quirky guy. He's a quirky guy, man. He wears these weird outfits. Like he would bring his wrestling gear, right? And there's kind of like weird, funky outfits. Kind of like what I would wear, but just theoretically speaking, like if I was in my disco character and I changed clothes 3 times during the day and just walked around the locker with a different outfit,
right.
That's what Teddy would do. He just like, it's like, what are you doing, dude? It's like, you know, just like it's like a fashion model backstage before the show working the boys, but it's like, you know, it's like, dude, there's no fans here. You know, it's like, what are you doing here? He's great.
And was it Cody Rhodes that you had some sort of issue with recently on Twitter?
Well, Cody Rhodes. Well, here's the thing. I don't. If you've listened to any of the stuff I've done, I'm very big because I see wrestling today, and with social media and Twitter, what I find very disturbing is people retweet these videos of wrestlers killing each other, and doing really dangerous stuff, and doing risky stuff and stuff that you can get crippled doing. And you look at the comments, and everybody's like, "Oh, well," you know, everybody's high five. You know, 80% of the comments are like, "Wow, this is incredible," you know, stuff. And I'm like, "This is just a dangerous path, you know, that we're going down." Like, guys think it's okay to be rougher with each other instead of working more with each other.
Yeah. And
I see guys kill each other all the time and stuff, and I'd
then they go on social media and thank each other for the match.
Bro, I was like, somebody like, here's the thing. Everybody talked about like they couldn't believe Brock Lesnar punched Braun. I was like, you know, I mean, all due respect to Braun. Braun need Brock in the side of the face first. Back in the day, that's what you did. If you gave the guy a receipt, you know, if you knee me, it's like, Jesus Christ, settle down, you know, and that's it. Then we keep working from them, but then like everybody thought, well, that was like this big, oh my God. It's like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. When a guy's getting too rough, you don't embrace it. You tell the guy to like, you know, lighten up in there. I don't want to get hurt. You know what I'm saying? So there's like a different culture now where it's like pro wrestling fans all know it's a work. So they kind of, to pop them, these people that all know it's a work, to pop them, they feel you have to go out and like do some stuff that hurts for real during the match. Like a power bomb on the apron, or a pile driver on the apron, or something, you know, stuff like it's like, what are you guys doing? You know, it's like you can't, you know. So Cody had gotten busted open, right? And I was like, okay, Jesus Christ, like that's like I tweeted, like people retweet these things to me all the time. I saw it, so I just retweeted like, well, nobody knows how to work anymore. All they want to do is try to get Meltzer 5 stars. It's ridiculous. It's like, Cody thought I was burying him. I'm not burying him because he's the guy that got busted open. I'm like, I'm burying the guy that did this to you, So, but it got completely misconstrued. Cody thought I was burying him. And Cody said some mean things about me and everything, but bro, this is one thing. If anybody knows me, I got thick skin. I'm like, I've got, like on Twitter, I've got 97% real followers, and I've only blocked one guy my entire life. So my timeline is filled with people trying to insult me and stuff, and I laugh at it, you know what I'm saying? So a guy buries me, it's like, and I was like, that just said, if Cody thought I was insulting him, okay, I have no problem with him, burying me, that's no big deal, but like, I think if he realized, if we had a conversation, tell me, hey, I'm not burying you, I'm just burying the other guy. Yeah. He probably wouldn't have reacted the same way, but it's no big deal. It just happened. But that's social media these days. People see stuff like that, and that's news. Yeah. It's like your social, like when you're a wrestler today, your social media account is newsworthy. Especially Cody's. Cody's is hysterical. He's tweeting funny stuff all the time. But yeah, I'm just big on the path that wrestling's going, where guys are just like, we know what concussions causes concussions. And it's like guys kind of like, it looks like they don't know because they're still doing things. I'm like, guys, you've seen the studies and stuff, like forearming each other in the side of the head. If you're working it, that's fine. I go, but you screw one up. I go, what's the result of that? I go, if you screw up a forearm to the head and you hit the guy too hard, what can happen? You get a concussion. I go, I grew up, throwing work and like these days, like how often you see like professional wrestlers feed a comeback in a hot tag, where the guy hits the ring, he's punch. Nobody has that skill anymore. Yeah. And there's the skills I grew up watching, and we weren't killing each other out there. I've been doing this 26 years. I've never hurt anybody. Never hurt one guy, not one time. I'm like, and these guys are hurting each other all. It's like wrestlers when they got hurt. You hurt your shoulder, you hurt your knee. You hurt your back, you hurt your hips, but these guys are like hurting each other, like with a move. And I'm like, God Almighty, it's like, it's not what this is all about, It's not what it's supposed to be all about,
And what do you think about WWE's recent thing at WrestleMania with the fourth grader winning the tag title? And I guess now he's going to be a recurring character. I don't know. If
here's what I think. It's if they do stuff like that. And it's like, guys, don't you realize that like everybody knows that this is a work? And like, I mean, how long did it take for them the fans to find out that it was one of the referee's sons? So it's like, it's not like this, like a storyline like that has zero depth, because as soon as they find out the kid's a plant, it's like the angle's over. It's like, so what are you going to do with that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't do stuff like that these days because everybody knows it's a work. And it's like, maybe you'll pop people in the moment. But that's not a WrestleMania moment that you're going to remember because, that kid was a work, I thought it was, that's the way I looked at it, As soon as everybody knows that the kid's a plant, what are you going to do with it, right? Yeah.
And overall, I guess mainstream interest in the television products now is down. What would you do as a guy that's booked for some major companies differently?
I don't know, but I don't know what you can do, because the style of work today is too acrobatic for what professional wrestling's trying to sell. We grew up, like I said, like it's evolved from people thinking they were fighting for real, to people suspending their disbelief to thinking they were fighting for real, to now people don't have any suspension of disbelief at all because everybody knows it's work. Everybody knows it's work. And literally people that have never worked before ever think they know more about work than the people that have worked.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when you have that culture that's infested the business, it's like, what can you do to change, to tell guys, hey, this style of wrestling we're doing it wrong, because this looks like a circus. I mean, if you watch Cirque du Soleil and you watch it, this is what the guys do in Cirque du Soleil. This is not what the guys do in fights. And you want to sell fights to people cutting promos, talking about, like I've always said, it's like I see a lot of the stuff that how the guys wrestle today, and I've always said, like, how do you write promos for that? If that's what you're going to go do out there,
Yeah.
You know, it's like it used to be from Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair talking about going and kick each other's ass. Stone Cold and Rock talking about killing each other, beating each other up. It's like, what are these guys going to do that do all these acrobatic? What are you going to say to promote your match against it? Getting people come watch.
Yeah.
And like this whole thing, like everybody's like wrestling is art. Now this, like, why are people embracing that? Who wants to go to watch? Who wants to go watch? If I'm telling you, who wants to go watch two artists trying to simulate competition against each other where they're doing acrobatics, as opposed to watching Bill Goldberg fight Brock Lesnar?
Yeah.
You know, so like
why that drew so well.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, you know, the model of wrestling has just gone so far off the map that like that's why people do. You can say it's creative. You know, and like it's creative, but it all to me starts with what the guys are doing in the ring. How are creatives supposed to write for guys that are doing that? If everybody knows it's the work and they know it's acrobatic and you're diving all over each other and stuff, what are you going to say? That if you're not even going to talk about beating each other up or going out there and try to beat each other up.
Yeah.
So I would just try to change the culture. I try to teach old school, you know, like wrestling, like perfect example, like a guy like I've been training Stephan Bonner, right? And I haven't been with him in a couple months because I've been for my job. But like when I train him, I said I want to train you to look like a UFC fighter that's going in there beating people up. I don't want to train you to be a professional wrestler. I want to train you to go in there and look like you're still doing UFC, but you're working. You're not hurting the guy, and that's it. And like if you look, that's what fans when a fan comes and watches a show, matches like that, your suspension of disbelief changes. You know what I'm saying? It's in the right place because like, okay, this guy's fighting. You know what I'm saying? So like guys like Goldberg, Brock, you know, like Stephan Bonner and stuff, and when they go out there, it's like, hey, this guy's he's coming to mess some people up. You know, which is what it should look like. And if you look, those are the people that are really over. Right. Not the people that people think are over, that are good workers and stuff. They're over with this crowd.
The small niche
audience, you know, this subculture of this is awesome fans, that know it's a work. They want you to go out there and risk something, and then they'll chant this is awesome if you successfully perform it. You know what I'm saying? If you don't, you know, say they want to see guys kill each other, but the guys aren't killing each other, make it look like they're killing each other like Brock and Goldberg are. They're killing each other doing something where you can land on your neck and break your neck. You know, it's like that you're doing that time to kill each other. So I was like, I don't know, you know. So
I actually saw Quebecer Pierre, who wrestles for our company, do like a moonsault to the outside that clearly looked like the guys were trying to catch him. Didn't even look like he was trying to hurt them. And at his age doing that, I asked him, are you insane?
Yeah, why are you doing that? To get a "This is awesome" chant from the city? Because there's a million people that do that. And like, you know, and that's the thing, is like if guys, if you're going to do all that stuff where it looks like you're cooperating with each other, try to hide it more. They're not hiding it. It looks like this one guy's helping the other guy do this. It looks like you're standing there waiting for the guy to jump on you. And I'm like, it's funny.
You're running towards the guy to catch him.
Right. And so the guy's standing there, you run all the way across the ring, run all the way back, and the guy's standing, you dive over, and the guy didn't move. It's like, it's funny, whenever I work, not that much, if every guy wants to tell, hey, I'm going to do a thing, I say, my character would move out of the way. So if you want to dive over the top and land on the floor, go ahead. Because I think that would get a better pop than dude just standing there like this and catching you, you know. So, but I would. There's nothing creative can be done until the guys start embracing the verbal skills required to get people to come and watch you wrestle. Because as I said it before and say again, and show me in history where a 5-star match drew money. Okay, 5-star matches never draw money. The match was drawn, the money was drawn before the match takes place. So people need to embrace the skills to draw the fans first. Whatever happens after that, you can say that's not the 5-star match didn't, the fans didn't pay for the 5-star match. The fans, the 5-star match happened after they paid.
Right.
And when people start realizing that you have to do the things to get people to come watch you wrestle, it's because if you don't have a 5-star match, a 5-star match didn't draw. So that's why I always tell people. So all the money's drawn before the match starts. You gotta be able to talk, and good talkers will always be able to make money in this business, and not have to kill themselves.
Now, for your social media, for anyone watching this that wants to follow you on your Twitter or Facebook,
@TheRealDisco on Twitter. I don't like. but this, I've got 900 friend requests from wrestling fans trying to be my friend on Facebook. If I don't know you, you're not my friend on Facebook. I'm not adding you if I don't know you. You're either gonna be a hot girl or a friend of mine personally. So for Facebook, if you want to follow me on Twitter, go ahead. But I'm not. You're not getting on my Facebook page. I did that one time. I let a wrestling fan on my Facebook page, and the first thing he did was post a video of me wrestling Goldberg. I'm like, dude, it's like, who cares? You know, like, oh yeah, I know I wrestled Goldberg. You know, you can catch me at Disco Master GG on Twitter. Keeping It 100 podcast with Conan. This drops on late Wednesday nights, early Thursday mornings on Westwood One. And I do a podcast on the Russo brand called Lions, Tigers, Bears, and Disco. It's on Fridays on the Realm Network, and we recap news of the week. So, and that's where you can catch me.
And is there any final thought you want to give the people that ended up watching this very extended interview?
Yeah, that if you want to see some, if you're a fan of professional wrestling, I would tell you to go back and watch, get the WWE Network and go watch some of the stuff from the mid to late '90s, and just watch how the crowd responds to the shows back then and the way they do now. And I think it'd be an impressive thing for you to like see how what wrestling has evolved into as to what it was. So.
Very good. And can you give us a disco move to end this off?
Sure thing. Do you want me to like it?
One moment.
I'll do it from here. Here we go.
That's all I want.
Yeah, this one, right? Oh, man.